There is a peculiar exhaustion that has become the background noise of modern life. A quiet hum of striving that never seems to cease. It is the feeling of pushing a great, invisible boulder up a never-ending hill. We are taught that this is the cost of ambition, the necessary sacrifice for success. We are told to hustle harder, to grind longer, to force the outcomes we desire into existence. We have built monuments to the idea of the struggle, celebrating it as a virtue, a badge of honor in the great battle for a better life. But what if this core belief, this foundational story we tell ourselves, is profoundly flawed? What if the fight is not the path to victory, but the very obstacle that ensures our defeat? What if the immense effort we expend is the source of our stagnation? The problem, you see, is not a lack of will or a failure to apply ourselves. The problem is in the application itself. We approach wisdom as if it were a project to be managed. We consume books, philosophies, and spiritual teachings, and we turn them into another set of rules, another demanding checklist. We try to strategize surrender. We attempt to engineer enlightenment. We fight for peace. We turn the path of self-development into another form of self-punishment, creating an inner landscape of immense friction, a state of constant, low-grade resistance against ourselves. The very tools meant to liberate us become the bars of a new cage, one we have meticulously built with the best of intentions. We are trying to force a flower to bloom by prying its petals open, only to find we have destroyed the very beauty we sought to possess. This leads us to a liberating and profound paradox, a truth that feels counterintuitive, yet resonates deep within our bones. The principle of less effort for more results. This is not an invitation to apathy or laziness. It is an invitation to a different kind of action, an aligned action, a movement that arises not from force, but from a state of being known as flow. It is the discovery that the universe is not a stubborn opponent to be conquered, but a powerful current to be joined. And the journey into this understanding does not require another struggle. It can be as simple as listening. We can explore these messages from the universe, this ancient wisdom, through the seamless medium of audiobooks, allowing these transformative ideas to wash over us while we drive, while we walk, while we work. It is an absorption, not a study, an effortless infusion of wisdom that becomes the soundtrack to our own unfolding, teaching us, finally, how to let go of the oars and simply be carried by the river. We begin our journey by dismantling an idea so pervasive, so deeply embedded in our culture, that we mistake it for a law of nature. It is the gospel of hustle. This single word has become a modern commandment, a celebrated mantra for anyone with a dream. It conjures images of burning the midnight oil, of calendars overflowing with color-coded obligations, of a life fueled by caffeine and sheer force of will. We are sold this idea from every angle, that to succeed is to outwork, to outsuffer, to sacrifice more than the next person. The hustle is presented as a kind of heroic battle, a noble war waged against mediocrity and circumstance. It promises a sense of control in a world that feels increasingly chaotic. If you just work hard enough, if you never switch off, if you push through every pain barrier and ignore every signal your body sends you, you will inevitably bend reality to your will. It is a seductive promise, because it simplifies the complex equation of life into a single variable effort. And in a world of uncertainty, the idea that we can control our destiny through the sheer volume of our labor is a powerful and deeply comforting illusion. But it is an illusion, a great and exhausting deception that has led more people to burnout than to breakthrough. This deification of effort has given rise to a strange and toxic phenomenon, the glorification of burnout. We have turned self-neglect into a competitive sport. We scroll through social media and see the performance of productivity. People bragging about their lack of sleep, their back-to-back meetings, their no days off mentality. Busyness has become a status symbol, a public declaration of one's importance. A person who is not perpetually exhausted is often viewed with suspicion, as if they are not trying hard enough, as if they lack ambition. We have created a culture where admitting you are tired is seen as a confession of weakness, and taking a day to rest is an act of rebellion. But we must pause and question the fundamental logic of this belief. Does a tired mind produce brilliant ideas? Does a stressed and depleted body perform at its peak? Does a life without stillness and reflection lead to profound wisdom? The truth is, the relentless pursuit of exhaustion is not a pathway to sustainable success. It is a recipe for a spectacular crash. Burnout is not a necessary rite of passage. It is the predictable consequence of a flawed strategy. It is the body and the soul crying out that the path of brute force is a dead end. When you are running on empty, you are not a hero. You are simply a machine that has ignored every warning light, heading for a complete and total system failure. The hustle does not build you up. It grinds you down until there is nothing left to give. The core of this great deception lies in a critical misunderstanding between two very different kinds of work action and aligned action. The culture of hustle celebrates action, any action, as long as it is constant and strenuous. It is the philosophy of the woodcutter who spends 12 hours a day hacking at a giant tree with a blunt axe. He is sweating. His muscles are screaming. He is undeniably working hard. From a distance, his effort is impressive, but his progress is agonizingly slow. He is engaged in frantic, forceful, and deeply inefficient action. Now, consider a different approach. Another woodcutter arrives at the same forest. She spends the first 2 hours of her day doing what looks like nothing. She sits quietly, examining the grain of her axe handle, running a whetstone along its blade, feeling its edge become razor sharp. To the hustle enthusiast, she is wasting precious time. But when she finally stands up and approaches the tree, each swing of her perfectly sharpened axe bites deep into the wood. Her movements are fluid, powerful, and precise. She fells the tree in a fraction of the time, with a fraction of the frantic energy. This is aligned action. It is not about the volume of effort, but the quality and timing of it. It arises from a place of clarity and preparation, not from a place of anxiety and haste. Aligned action is making the one phone call that opens 1,000 doors, writing the one sentence that unlocks an entire chapter, or having the one insight during a quiet walk that pivots an entire business. Hustle culture is loud, chaotic, and obsessed with the appearance of work. Aligned action is often quiet, deliberate, and concerned only with what is effective. It is the difference between shouting into the wind and whispering the right word into the right ear. This wisdom, this understanding of a deeper rhythm to life, is not new. It is beautifully illustrated in a timeless story from ancient China. The parable of the farmer. There was an old farmer who lived in a small village. He was poor, but respected for his calm demeanor. One day, his only horse, which he used for plowing and transportation, ran away. His neighbors all came to console him, clicking their tongues and saying, "Oh, what terrible luck! This is a disaster." The old farmer simply looked at them and replied, "Who knows what is good or bad?" The neighbors left, shaking their heads at his strange response. A few days later, his horse returned, and it was not alone. It had led a herd of magnificent wild horses back to the farm. The neighbors, hearing the news, rushed back, their faces full of joy. "What incredible luck!" they exclaimed. "Now you are a rich man." The old farmer calmly surveyed the new horses and said, "Who knows what is good or bad?" A week later, the farmer's son was trying to tame one of the wild horses. The horse threw him, and the son fell awkwardly, breaking his leg. The neighbors came once again, this time with pity in their eyes. "How awful," they lamented. Your son, your only help, is now crippled. This is truly bad luck. The farmer, tending to his son's injury, replied once more, "Who knows what is good or bad?" Just a few weeks after that, the emperor's army marched into the village. A brutal war had broken out, and they were conscripting every able-bodied young man for the front lines. A battle from which very few were expected to return. When they came to the farmer's house, they saw his son with his badly broken leg, and they passed him by. The farmer's son was spared. This story perfectly captures the folly of our hustle mentality. Our constant, frantic action is based on immediate judgment. We label an event a disaster and we hustle to fix it. We label an event a windfall and we hustle to exploit it. We are like the neighbors, reacting with extreme emotion and effort to every twist and turn of fate. The farmer, however, embodies the wisdom of flow. He does not waste his energy on frantic reactions. He lives in a state of profound acceptance and trust, conserving his energy, knowing that he cannot possibly see the full picture from his limited vantage point. He understands that the universe has a logic far grander and more complex than his immediate fears or desires. This brings us to the hidden costs of the hustle, the energetic toll, and the paradox of control. Imagine you have an energetic bank account. Every moment of forced action, every second spent worrying about an outcome you cannot dictate, every anxious thought about the how and the when, is a significant withdrawal. The hustle lifestyle is a direct path to energetic bankruptcy. It keeps you so busy spending your vital energy on inefficient, the reactive tasks that when a true moment of opportunity arrives, a moment that requires your full presence and clarity, your account is empty. You are too exhausted to see it, too depleted to act on it. And here lies the great paradox. The harder you try to control every detail of your life, the more chaotic and out of control it becomes. This desperate need for control creates a state of intense internal tension. It makes you rigid, clumsy, and blind to the simpler, more elegant solutions that are all around you. When you try to force a river to flow in a specific direction, you must build dams and levees. A constant, exhausting battle against its nature. But when you let go of the need to control the river's exact path and instead learn to build a boat and navigate its currents, you harness its immense power with grace and ease. Releasing the obsessive need to control the how paradoxically grants you far more influence over the what. You become more powerful, more effective, and more successful, not by adding more effort, but by subtracting the friction. So we see that the gospel of hustle, while well-intentioned, is a great deception. It promises mastery but delivers only anxiety. It promises freedom but leads to the prison of burnout. It is a philosophy built entirely on the concept of friction, of pushing against the world. But if this constant, grinding push isn't the answer, what exactly are we pushing against? If the problem isn't our external circumstances, what is this invisible force that seems to meet our every effort with an equal and opposite reaction? This question leads us away from the external world of action and into the internal world of our own consciousness. It brings us face to face with the true enemy, the silent saboteur of our best intentions. It is a force known simply as resistance. Having dismantled the myth of hustle, we find ourselves standing before a new revelation. The primary obstacle to our success, the true source of that friction we feel when we try to move our lives forward, is not a lack of effort, and it is not our external circumstances. The battle is not with our boss, our bank account, or our background. The battle, we come to realize, is an inside job. We are wrestling with a shadowy force, a ghost in our own machine, an invisible enemy whose sole purpose is to maintain the status quo and sabotage our growth. This force has been given a name, and that name is resistance. It is the shadowy architect of our stagnation, the master of excuses, the voice that whispers, "Do it tomorrow. To understand, resistance is the first great step toward liberation. For in stark contrast to an external enemy, an internal one is within our power to address. The moment we recognize that the prison door is locked from the inside is the moment we realize we hold the key. So what, precisely, is this internal friction? Resistance is not a person or a thing, but a universal force, an energy that is as real as gravity. It is the negative, repelling force that arises whenever we consider moving from a lower level of being to a higher one. It manifests as the sudden, profound wave of sleepiness that washes over you the moment you open a book you know you should read. It is the inexplicable, urgent need to organize your spice rack when you have a business plan to write. It is the mental blankness that descends when you finally sit down to have that difficult, necessary conversation with a loved one. Resistance is the force that slams the emergency brake on your life. Even as your foot is pressing down on the accelerator, it is a form of psychic static, a constant hum of interference that distorts the clear signal of your true intentions and desires. It is crucial to distinguish resistance from legitimate caution. Caution is the voice of wisdom, the part of you that assesses real-world risks and advises prudence. It might say, "That bridge looks unstable. Perhaps we should test it before we cross." Resistance, on the other hand, is the voice of irrational fear. It doesn't offer a helpful assessment. It simply shouts, "Don't you dare cross that bridge. Who do you think you are? You'll certainly fall. Stay here where it's safe." Caution is a guide. Resistance is a jailer. To defeat any enemy, you must understand its origins. Resistance is not born of logic, but of fear. And its primary source is the ego. Your ego is the construct of your current identity, the story of who you believe you are, built from your past experiences, triumphs, and traumas. It finds comfort in the familiar, even if the familiar is a state of misery. Any act of significant growth, whether it's starting a new career, committing to a spiritual practice, or getting healthy, is a direct threat to the ego's territory. It means becoming someone new. And this is terrifying to the part of you that has invested everything in being who you are now. Resistance is the ego's defense mechanism, deployed to protect its fragile kingdom. Its most obvious ally is the fear of failure. It paints vivid pictures of humiliation and shame. It whispers, "What if you pour your heart into this painting and nobody likes it? What if you launch your business and it goes bankrupt? The ridicule will be unbearable." It's far safer to never even try. Less obvious, but often more powerful, is its sibling, the fear of success. This is a far more insidious and subtle form of sabotage. Resistance whispers, "And what if you do succeed? What then?" The expectations on you will be immense. You will have to perform at this new level forever. Your friends who are still struggling might become jealous. Your life will change in ways you cannot control or predict. Success means stepping out from the crowd, leaving the comfortable tribe of the familiar and venturing into the unknown. It means taking on more responsibility. Resistance dreads this spotlight, this new level of accountability, and will do anything to keep you safely hidden in the shadows of your potential. These fears are not even truly yours. They are old programs, installed in us by society, by well-meaning parents, by a culture that often teaches us that it is better to be safe than to be spectacular. Resistance is a shapeshifter. It manifests in our lives in 1,000 different ways, all disguised as rational behavior. Let us imagine a writer, someone who feels a deep calling to create a novel. The idea is brilliant. The passion is there. The intention is pure. She sits down at her desk, her heart full of purpose, her fingers poised over the keyboard. And then, resistance arrives for its appointment. Its first disguise is procrastination. Suddenly, our writer feels an overwhelming urge to check her email. Just for a minute. That minute turns into 30 as she clicks through links and reads newsletters. Then, she remembers. She needs to reply to a text message. Then, she notices a bit of dust on her bookshelf, which leads to an hour of cleaning. Resistance will always present you with a seemingly urgent but ultimately unimportant task to prevent you from doing the one thing that truly matters. If she overcomes that, resistance dons its next costume, intellectualization, which often looks like research. She tells herself, "I can't possibly start writing yet. I need to do more research on the historical period. I need to read 5 more novels in this genre to fully understand the conventions." This masquerades as diligence, as scholarly preparation, but it is a trap. It is resistance building an impossibly high wall of prerequisites, ensuring that the moment to begin is always in the future. Finally, let's say she pushes through and manages to write a single, beautiful paragraph. Resistance then unleashes its most vicious weapon, the inner critic, or toxic perfectionism. A voice in her head immediately screeches, "This is garbage. The prose is clumsy. The idea is derivative. Who are you kidding? You're not a real writer." The impulse is to delete it, to rework it, to polish that one paragraph into oblivion, ensuring that a second paragraph is never born. The perfect has become the enemy of the good, and resistance has won the day. After hours of this torturous internal battle, the writer is exhausted, defeated, and further away from her goal than when she started. In a moment of surrender, she gives up trying to force it. She pushes her chair back, leaves the room, and goes for a walk in the woods with no agenda other than to breathe. She doesn't think about the novel. She focuses on the crunch of leaves under her feet, the shaft of sunlight through the canopy, the cool air on her skin. She lets go, and in that quiet space of surrender, in that moment where the psychic static of resistance has been silenced, it happens. An idea arrives, whole and perfect, a line of dialogue, a solution to the plot hole, a deep insight into her character's motivation. It doesn't come because she pushed harder. It comes because she finally stopped pushing. The breakthrough did not happen in the fight. It happened in the vacuum created by its absence. This leads us to the most empowering reframe of all. Instead of viewing resistance as an enemy to be vanquished, we can begin to see it as a compass. Resistance does not show up for the trivialities of life. It does not appear when you are about to watch another episode of a television series or scroll mindlessly through your phone. Resistance only appears when a soul-level calling is at stake. The amount of resistance you feel toward an action is directly proportional to how important that action is for your personal and spiritual evolution. It is a signpost, pointing you directly toward your next area of growth. The book you are most afraid to write is the book you are meant to write. The business you are most terrified to launch is the one that holds your destiny. The conversation you are most dreading is the one that will set you free. In this light, resistance is not a wall stopping you. It is a beacon guiding you. Your life's work can be found by simply turning and facing the direction of maximum resistance. We have now identified this invisible enemy. We have seen that it is born from fear, that it is nurtured by the ego, and that it wears the clever masks of procrastination and perfectionism. Its singular goal is to prevent you from becoming the person you were born to be. But we have also seen the futility of fighting it head-on. The writer's struggle was a perfect illustration of wrestling with a shadow. The more you fight, the more it defines your reality, and the more exhausted you become. Her breakthrough came when she stepped out of the fight entirely, and into a different state of being where resistance simply could not find purchase. So if direct combat is useless, how do we dissolve this internal saboteur? How do we learn to cultivate that state of grace the writer found on her walk? To do this, we must now turn our attention to the natural antidote to resistance. We must learn about the state where our actions become effortless, where time itself seems to melt away, and where we cease to be the struggling creator and instead become a clear channel for creation itself. We must now explore the first whisper of flow. If resistance is the poison, then flow is the antidote. If resistance is the state of internal friction, of driving with the brakes on, then flow is the state of frictionless grace, of moving with a powerful, invisible current that carries you forward with astonishing speed and ease. This is not a mystical, unattainable concept reserved for enlightened monks or artistic prodigies. You have been in flow. Every single person listening has felt its whisper. You felt it as a child, so completely absorbed in building a fortress of blocks that the outside world, with its calls for dinner, simply ceased to exist. You have felt it as an adult, perhaps in a moment of deep conversation with a friend, where the hours melted away like minutes. You may have found it on a basketball court, in the garden, behind the wheel of a car on an open road, or in the focused act of solving a problem that engaged every part of your mind. It is that sacred space where doing and being become one, where the self-conscious, critical parts of your mind go quiet, and you are left with only the pure, joyful, and deeply satisfying experience of the present moment. We have all touched it, but we have been conditioned to see it as a happy accident, a fleeting moment of luck. The truth is, it is a state that can be understood, invited, and cultivated. The modern understanding of this phenomenon comes from the pioneering work of the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. In a field often preoccupied with dysfunction and mental illness, Csikszentmihalyi was fascinated by the opposite. He wanted to know what made life worth living. He dedicated his career to studying happiness, creativity, and peak performance. He interviewed thousands of people from all walks of life: surgeons, chess grandmasters, rock climbers, painters, factory workers, and shepherds, all in an effort to answer a single question: when do you feel your best? From this vast body of research, a clear and consistent pattern emerged. The best moments in people's lives were not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occurred when a person's body or mind was stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. He gave this state of optimal experience a name: flow. He defined it as a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience is so enjoyable that people will do it even at great cost, for the sheer sake of doing it. Flow is the secret ingredient to a life of engagement and fulfillment. It is the space where we feel most alive, most capable, and most ourselves. It is the engine of intrinsic motivation, the reason a painter paints, the reason a coder codes, the reason a runner runs. And crucially, it is the state in which we perform at our absolute peak with the least amount of perceived effort. To cultivate this state, we must first understand its anatomy, the core characteristics that define it. The first is an intense and focused concentration on the present moment. It is as if a powerful spotlight illuminates the task at hand, and everything else on the stage of your life, your worries about the past, your anxieties about the future, your nagging to-do list, fades into complete darkness. There is only now. This intense focus leads directly to the second characteristic, the merging of action and awareness. In our normal, resistance-filled state, there is a distinct separation between our sense of self and what we are doing. There is the I who is struggling, and there is the task to be done. In flow, this distinction dissolves. The musician is no longer a person playing an instrument. They become the music itself. The writer is no longer thinking about what to write. They become the conduit through which the story flows. Action and awareness become a single, unified experience. This merging naturally gives rise to the third, and perhaps most liberating, characteristic: a loss of self-consciousness. The ego, that inner narrator who is constantly judging your performance and worrying about what others think, goes silent. The fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of looking foolish, all of these are products of the ego. And in a state of flow, the ego is temporarily decommissioned. This frees up a tremendous amount of mental energy that is normally consumed by self-monitoring, allowing it to be redirected entirely to the task. The fourth hallmark is a distorted sense of time. The part of our brain responsible for tracking time, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, quiet down during flow. The result is that our perception of time becomes elastic. 5 hours can pass in what feels like 5 minutes. In flow, the clock becomes meaningless. Finally, there is a sense of personal control and effortless ease. This is the central paradox. You feel completely in command of your actions. Yet, it feels like you are not trying. This happens because flow exists in a very specific channel. The sweet spot where the challenge of the task is perfectly matched to your level of skill. The goals are clear. The feedback is immediate, and you are operating at the very edge of your abilities, in a state of active, engaged, and joyful surrender. There is no more perfect embodiment of flow than the master surfer. Imagine a vast and powerful ocean, with waves rising and crashing with an energy that dwarfs any single human. A beginner, or someone filled with the tension of resistance, paddles out into this chaos and tries to fight it. They see the wave as an adversary to be conquered. They are stiff. Their mind is racing with fear. They try to force their board onto the wave's face, and they are inevitably tossed and churned, defeated by a force they do not understand. Now, watch the master. Her initial action is one of stillness and observation. She is not fighting the ocean. She is reading it. She is feeling its rhythms, its deep currents, its energetic language. She waits patiently, not out of laziness, but out of wisdom. When the right wave begins to form, she does not paddle against its power, and she aligns with it. In the critical moment, as she stands on her board, she is not commanding the wave. She is dancing with it. Her mind is quiet. Her body makes thousands of intuitive micro-adjustments without a single conscious thought. The separation between surfer and wave disappears. They become a single, fluid event, a temporary sculpture of water and human grace. Her spectacular ride is not a triumph of brute force. It is a triumph of alignment. She has harnessed an immense power not by opposing it, but by merging with it. This is the very essence of less effort, more results. Her power comes not from what she expends, but from what she allows to flow through her. This state of grace is not the exclusive domain of athletes and artists. The principles of flow are universal. It is available to the gardener who becomes so lost in the act of tending to their plants that they forget all their worries. It is available to the programmer who enters a state of deep focus, solving complex lines of code as if they are simply taking dictation from an unseen intelligence. It can be found by two friends, locked in a conversation so authentic and engaging that the restaurant closes around them unnoticed. You can even find flow in the most mundane of chores, when you wash the dishes with your full and undivided attention, feeling the warmth of the water, seeing the shimmer of the soap bubbles, hearing the clink of the plates. You can transform a dull task into a moving meditation, a moment of profound presence. It is critical to remember that this state is not passive. It is the highest form of active engagement. Flow exists on the razor's edge between boredom and anxiety. If the task is too easy for your skill level, you become bored. If the task is too difficult, you become anxious and filled with resistance. Flow is the sweet spot, the channel where you are fully stretched, fully engaged, and fully alive. We have now named this antidote to resistance. We have dissected its anatomy and seen its beautiful, the dynamic expression in the dance between the surfer and the wave. We understand that it is not an accident, but a specific, identifiable state of optimal experience and peak performance. A state that is accessible to every one of us. It is, in itself, a profoundly worthy goal. To live a life with more moments of this joyful, effortless focus is to live a richer and more meaningful life. But the implications of flow extend far beyond the experience itself. The question we must now ask is how this internal state of being translates into tangible, external results. How does the feeling of flow in your mind and body actually create success and abundance in the world around you? The answer requires us to take a leap, to move from the realm of psychology into the foundational principles of reality itself. We must begin to understand that your state of being is not merely a collection of feelings and thoughts, but a frequency, a literal vibration that you are constantly broadcasting to the universe. And the universe, in turn, can only respond to the signal you send. We have journeyed from the noisy, exhausting world of hustle into the quiet, graceful state of flow. We've defined it as the antidote to resistance, an optimal state of experience where we feel and perform our best. This is a profound psychological discovery in itself. But its true power is revealed only when we take the next step, when we ask how. How does an internal state of mind create a tangible, external result? To answer this, we must move beyond psychology and into the realm of physics. We must look past the software of our thoughts and begin to understand the fundamental hardware of the universe itself. The proposition is this: your state of being is not just a collection of moods and feelings. It is a physical frequency, a signal you are broadcasting every second of every day. And the universe does not respond to your words, your wishes, or your wants. It responds with flawless and impersonal precision to the vibration you are. This may sound like a departure into the mystical, but it is rooted in the revelations of our own science. For centuries, humanity saw the world as a collection of solid, separate things. A rock was a rock. A tree was a tree. A person was a person. This was the world of classical, Newtonian physics. But in the early 20th century, a revolution occurred. Scientists, driven by curiosity, began to look deeper and deeper into the nature of matter. They put the seemingly solid world under the lens of quantum mechanics, and what they found shattered every existing paradigm. When they looked inside the atom, they didn't find a tiny, solid solar system. They found a nucleus surrounded by a buzzing cloud of electrons. And when they tried to look at those electrons, they behaved not like tiny, solid marbles, but like oscillating, vibrating waves of potential. They discovered that at the most fundamental level of reality, there is no thing. There is only energy. The chair you are sitting on, which feels so solid and stable, is ultimately a vast collection of atoms vibrating at a specific, slow frequency, creating the illusion of solidity. The light hitting your eyes is energy vibrating at a much higher, faster frequency. Your own body, in its intricate complexity, is a symphony of countless vibrations. You are not a solid object navigating a solid world. You are a dynamic, vibrating energy field existing within a vast, interconnected ocean of energy. This is not philosophy. This is physics. And accepting this one foundational truth, that everything is energy, is the first step to understanding your true creative power. If the entire universe is energy, and you are part of that universe, then it follows that your inner world of thoughts and emotions must also have an energetic component. Your feelings are not just abstract psychological events. They are literal frequencies that your body generates and radiates outward. Think of it as your own personal broadcast tower. You can easily grasp this on an intuitive level. Imagine a scale of emotions. At the very bottom of the scale, you have the dense, slow, chaotic frequencies of shame, guilt, and fear. When you feel these emotions, how does your body physically feel? It feels heavy, constricted, cold. You literally hunch over. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your energy contracts inward. These are low vibrations. As you move up the scale, you encounter anger, blame, and worry, which have a spiky, erratic, and dissonant energy. Then you move into the neutral zone of boredom or contentment. And then, you begin to climb into the higher frequencies. You reach hopefulness, optimism, and then you enter the truly high vibrational states: joy, love, peace, and gratitude. How do these emotions feel in your body? They feel light, expansive, and warm. Your posture opens up. You breathe more deeply. You smile. You are literally vibrating at a higher, faster, more coherent frequency. Every moment of every day, you are broadcasting a signal on this emotional scale. You cannot hide your frequency. You can say the words, "I am peaceful and prosperous." But if your internal state is broadcasting the chaotic frequency of anxiety and lack, the universe isn't listening to your words. It is responding to the undeniable truth of your broadcast. You are the operator of your own tower. And the reality you experience is a direct reflection of the signal you are sending out. To make this principle crystal clear, consider the simple, elegant analogy of the tuning fork. Imagine you have two tuning forks, both perfectly crafted to resonate at the note of middle C. You place them a few feet apart on a wooden table. You take a small mallet and strike the first tuning fork. It immediately begins to hum with a clear, pure tone, vibrating hundreds of times per second at the precise frequency of middle C. Now, something miraculous happens. The second tuning fork, which you have not touched, begins to vibrate as well. A faint hum begins to emerge from it, growing stronger, until it is also ringing out with the perfect note of middle C. This is a scientific principle known as sympathetic resonance. The sound waves from the first fork traveled through the air and the table. And because the second fork was a vibrational match, because it was built to resonate at the same frequency, it had no choice but to respond. Now, imagine we place a third tuning fork on the table. This one tuned to the note of A. You strike the C fork again, and it sings its note loudly. But the A fork remains completely silent, completely still. It does not matter how hard you strike the C fork. The A fork will never respond. It is not a vibrational match. It is deaf to any frequency that is not its own. The universe is this room full of tuning forks. There is a tuning fork for everything you can imagine: for loving relationships, for financial struggle, for vibrant health, for chronic illness, for creative inspiration, for frustrating setbacks. Your dominant emotional state is the tuning fork you choose to strike within yourself. If you are constantly striking the fork of worry, frustration, and a sense of lack, you are sending that vibration out into the field. And you will only, and can only, activate the experiences and circumstances that are a vibrational match to worry, frustration, and lack. To attract prosperity, you must first feel prosperous. To attract love, you must first embody love. You must become the vibrational frequency of that which you wish to experience. This is where the power of flow reveals its true significance. It is more than just a pleasant psychological state. It is a state of peak vibrational resonance. Let us place the state of flow on our emotional scale. Where does it belong? It belongs at the very top, by its very nature. Flow is a state completely devoid of low-frequency emotions. In flow, there is no fear, because you are fully engaged and feel a sense of control. There is no worry, because your mind is completely absorbed in the present moment. There is no doubt or self-criticism, because the ego has gone silent. What remains? Joyful focus, deep engagement, a sense of competence and expansion, a feeling of connection to something larger than yourself. These are some of the highest and purest frequencies a human being can generate. When you are in a state of flow, you are a powerful, coherent, high-frequency broadcasting tower. You are a resonating tuning fork for genius, for inspiration, for abundance, and for joy. You are sending out a clear and powerful signal of alignment and well-being. and the universe, in its infallible adherence to the law of resonance, must bring you people, ideas, and circumstances that are a perfect match for that beautiful signal. This is why breakthroughs happen in flow. It's not magic. It is physics. It is the natural consequence of aligning your personal vibration with the frequencies of creativity and success. So we can now see that the ancient adage, "You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are," is not a comforting platitude. It is a description of the fundamental mechanics of the cosmos. Your wants are irrelevant if your state of being contradicts them. The universe is not a catalog from which you order your desires. It is a mirror, reflecting back to you the truth of your own energy. This is the ultimate form of self-responsibility and the ultimate empowerment. You are the source. Your vibration is the cause, and your life experience is the effect. This, then, leads us to the most practical and important question of all. If our vibrational state is the key to co-creating our reality, and flow is the optimal state, how do we consciously begin to shift our frequency? How do we learn to strike the tuning fork of our choosing, instead of letting our old, conditioned habits of fear and worry strike it for us by default? This crucial work begins not with physical action, but with mental focus. It begins with learning how to consciously direct our energy using the first and most fundamental tool of creation, the power of a clear intention. We stand now at a pivotal point. We have accepted that we are energetic beings living in an energetic universe, and that our reality is a mirror of our dominant vibration. We have identified flow as the optimal, high-frequency state that aligns us with success and joy. This knowledge is empowering, but it can also feel abstract. How do we move from being a passive radiator of our habitual, often chaotic energy, to becoming a conscious, deliberate director of our frequency? How do we purposefully strike the tuning fork of our choice? The answer lies in the first great act of conscious creation. It is the foundational skill upon which everything else is built. It is the art and science of wielding the power of a clear intention. Imagine your life and your immense potential as a magnificent, powerful ship, equipped to sail any sea, without a destination. This ship simply drifts. It is pushed and pulled by the random currents of circumstance, caught in the storms of other people's opinions, and left to the mercy of the aimless tides. An intention is the act of walking up to the helm, taking the wheel firmly in your hands, and setting the precise coordinates for your destination. It is the declaration that transforms you from a passenger into the captain of your own voyage. It gives your energy focus, purpose, and direction. To effectively use this power, we must first understand a crucial and often overlooked distinction: the difference between an intention and a goal. Our culture is obsessed with goals. A goal is typically a product of the ego and the analytical mind. It is an external finish line, a specific outcome you want to achieve. Goals often sound like this: I want to earn $100,000 this year. I want to get that promotion. I want to find a partner. There is nothing inherently wrong with goals. They can provide motivation and a target to aim for. However, they are focused on the having and the doing, and they often come bundled with the low-frequency energies of striving, attachment, and a fear of failure. They place your happiness in a future destination, rather than in the present journey. An intention, on the other hand, arises from a deeper place, from the soul or the spirit. It is not about a specific outcome, but about a desired state of being. It is a declaration of the energy you wish to inhabit and the quality of experience you wish to embody. It focuses on the feeling first. Let's contrast them. The goal is, I want to find a partner. The intention is, my intention is to be a beacon of love and authenticity, to experience deep connection, and to share my life with a person who reflects my own wholeness. Do you feel the energetic difference? The goal comes from a place of lack, a feeling that something is missing. The intention comes from a place of fullness, a desire to express what is already within you. A goal might be, I want to lose 30 pounds. The corresponding intention would be, my intention is to inhabit a body that feels vibrant, strong, and full of energy, and to cultivate a loving and respectful relationship with my physical self. An intention creates the vibrational blueprint. It sets the emotional frequency that, by the law of resonance, magnetizes the people, resources, and circumstances that match it, allowing the external goal to manifest as a natural byproduct of your state of being. Once you have crafted an intention, the next step is to charge it with power, and that power comes not from thought, but from clarity and from feeling. The universe responds to specificity. A vague intention will always yield a vague result. It is like placing an order in a cosmic restaurant. If you tell the universe, I'd like to be happy, it's like telling a waiter, just bring me some food. You might get a bowl of soup. You might get a piece of dry bread. You have left the outcome to chance. But if you say, my intention is to experience the profound joy and creative fulfillment that comes from sharing my artistic gifts with the world, you have provided a clear, specific order. You have given the universe a precise vibrational target to lock onto. But clarity alone is not enough. The true engine of manifestation is emotion. The subconscious mind, the gateway to the universal field, does not understand words. It understands feelings. You must take your clear, written intention and you must feelize it. You must make it a living, breathing reality within your own body, right here and right now. So take a moment. Bring your intention to mind. Don't just see the words in your head. Inhabit the reality of it. If your intention is to experience financial ease, what does that feel like? Close your eyes and feel the knot of anxiety in your stomach dissolve. Feel a warmth of security and peace spread through your chest. Feel the lightness in your shoulders, now free from a heavy burden. If your intention is to live in a body full of vitality, I feel the energy coursing through your limbs right now. Feel the strength in your muscles, the clarity in your mind. This is the act of striking the tuning fork. You are generating the exact frequency of your desired reality in the present moment, sending an undeniable signal into the field that this is who you are now. This entire process is perfectly encapsulated in the ancient wisdom of Zen archery. A young, ambitious archer goes to a master to learn the art. The young archer is completely obsessed with the target. He stares at the bullseye with fierce concentration. He calculates the wind. He tenses his body. And he pours all his willpower into forcing the arrow to hit its mark. His results are erratic. Sometimes he hits. Sometimes he misses wildly. He is filled with frustration and the strain of his effort is written all over his face. He is operating from the world of goals, of the ego. The Zen master then demonstrates his technique. He seems to barely acknowledge the target. His focus is entirely inward. He begins with his stance, feeling his feet connect to the ground, drawing energy from the earth. He moves to his breath, making it slow, deep, and rhythmic, calming his entire nervous system. He focuses on the process of drawing the bowstring, feeling the tension build in the bow, not in his own body. He becomes a state of relaxed readiness. His entire being is focused on perfecting the inner state of the archer. His intention is not to hit the target. His intention is to achieve a state of perfect, harmonious alignment within himself. The release of the arrow is not a final, forceful act. It is a quiet surrender, a simple letting go. And because his inner form is perfect, because his intention has been embodied, the arrow flies with a will of its own, straight and true, embedding itself in the dead center of the bullseye. The master knows a profound secret: the outcome is not the goal. It is the inevitable consequence of a perfectly aligned inner state. We are all the archer. Our life is the arrow. The results we want are the target. When we obsess over the target, we create tension and miss the mark. When we focus on cultivating our inner state, on embodying our intention, the arrow of our life cannot help but fly true. After the Zen archer has let the arrow fly, he does not run after it, trying to steer it in midair. He trusts the perfection of his release. This brings us to the final, crucial element of setting an intention. You must plant the seed, and then you must leave it alone. The act of creating a clear, feelingized intention is like planting a precious seed in the infinitely fertile soil of the universal consciousness. You have given it the life force it needs to germinate. A wise farmer, after planting a seed, has faith in the process. He waters it with his continued belief. He allows it to receive the sunlight of his positive expectation. And he trusts that the miraculous, invisible work of growth is happening beneath the surface. A foolish farmer, however, is filled with doubt and anxiety. The very next day, he digs up the seed to see if it has sprouted. Finding nothing, he buries it again. Disappointed, the day after, he digs it up once more. His constant interference, his energy of doubt and mistrust, ensures that the seed will wither and die. When you set a powerful intention, you must resist the urge to dig it up with worry. You must trust that the unseen forces are already at work, arranging circumstances and aligning opportunities on your behalf. The initial act of setting the intention is immensely powerful, but it is only half of the equation. The other half, the part that truly tests our faith and courage, is what must come next. It is the profound and often difficult practice of releasing our desperate grip on the outcome. It is the art of planting the seed and then walking away in trust. This brings us to the essential, paradoxical skill of letting go. Having set a clear, feeling charged intention, we have released our arrow into the vastness of the universe. We have planted our seed in the fertile soil of creation. We have done the work of the Zen archer and the wise farmer. And now we arrive at the most challenging, most courageous, and most misunderstood part of the entire creative process. We arrive at the art of letting go. In our culture, the phrase letting go is often laden with negative connotations. It is equated with giving up, with admitting defeat, with a kind of passive resignation to fate. We are taught to hold on tight, to grip our desires with white-knuckled determination, believing that the strength of our attachment is a measure of the depth of our desire. But this is another one of the great deceptions. The truth is that the desperate, clinging energy of attachment is a form of resistance. It is a low-frequency broadcast of fear, the fear that you won't get what you want, and it actively repels the very thing you are seeking. The ultimate paradox of creation is this: in order to truly receive, you must first be willing to release. To truly manifest your intention, you must let it go. To begin this practice, we must first dismantle the false equivalence between letting go and giving up. They are not the same. In fact, they are energetic opposites. Giving up is an act of despair. It is born from a place of defeat and hopelessness. It is the feeling of the marathon runner collapsing on the side of the road at mile 20, declaring the race impossible. The vibrational signature of giving up is apathy, victimhood, and powerlessness. Its mantra is, "It's no use. I can't do it." It is an admission of failure that closes all doors to possibility. Letting go, on the other hand, is an act of profound courage and trust. It is not passive. It is an active surrender to a higher intelligence. It is the marathon runner who, feeling a cramp, stops forcing their pace, trusts their body, and shifts to a steady rhythm, knowing the finish line will still be reached. The vibrational signature of letting go is peace, faith, and allowance. Its mantra is, "I have done my part, and now I trust the process." Giving up is dropping the oars in exhaustion and being tossed by the waves. Letting go is raising a sail. trusting that the invisible wind will carry you to your destination far more effectively than your own frantic rowing ever could. If letting go is so powerful, why do we find it so monumentally difficult? The answer lies with the gatekeeper of our consciousness, the ego. The human ego is a magnificent survival mechanism. A project manager that has been tasked with keeping you safe. It operates on linear logic, past experience, and predictable cause and effect planning. Its primary function is to control outcomes, to avoid pain and uncertainty. When you set a bold intention to create financial abundance, to find a soulmate, to launch a creative project, the ego immediately sounds the alarm. It demands to know the one thing that you cannot possibly provide. It demands to know how. How exactly will this happen? What is the 5-step plan? Who will you meet? And when? What will the precise sequence of events be? Because the future is, by its nature, unknown. The ego receives no satisfactory answer. This lack of a detailed blueprint sends it into a panic. It begins to generate its favorite emotions: doubt, worry, and anxiety. It bombards you with an endless stream of what-ifs. This anxious, questioning energy is the very definition of digging up the seed to see if it's growing. Letting go is the courageous act of turning to your own ego and saying, with gentle authority, "Thank you for your concern. Your job is to keep me safe, and I appreciate that. But you are not in charge of this operation. My job was to set the intention, to define the what and the why. The how is not my department. The how belongs to an intelligence far greater than my own." This brings us to the heart of the matter, trusting the cosmic orchestration. We must humbly accept that our limited, conscious mind sees only a tiny fraction of the available reality. We are standing at street level, able to see only what is directly in front of us. The universe, or whatever higher intelligence you choose to call it, is in a satellite high above, seeing the entire city grid. It sees all the traffic patterns, all the shortcuts, all the unexpected detours that can lead to our destination in a way that is faster, more magical, and more elegant than our own painstakingly crafted plan. Our insistence on controlling the how is like shouting directions from the street corner to the satellite, certain that our limited view is superior. The art of letting go is the art of trusting that the satellite view is infinitely more intelligent. This is beautifully illustrated by the simple metaphor of the butterfly. Imagine you are in a magnificent garden, and your deep intention is to experience the beauty of a particular monarch butterfly up close. The ego's approach is to grab a net. You begin to chase the butterfly, lunging and thrashing through the pristine flower beds. Your movements are frantic. Your energy is desperate. The more you chase, the more erratically the butterfly flits away. Sensing your aggressive, controlling energy, you are expending immense effort, creating chaos, and repelling the very thing you desire. Now, consider the approach of letting go. You put down the net. You find a comfortable bench among the fragrant roses. You become still. You close your eyes and take a deep breath, focusing not on the butterfly, but on your own state of being. You decide to simply enjoy the garden, to feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, to appreciate the beauty that is already all around you. You release your desperate need to capture the butterfly and instead become a peaceful, welcoming presence within its environment. And then, the magic happens. After a few minutes of your quiet stillness, the butterfly, no longer feeling pursued or threatened, may just float down and land gently on your outstretched hand. It came to you not because you hunted it, but because you became an energetic match for the peace of the garden. Your intention is the butterfly. Your frantic chasing is the ego's need to control the how. Your peaceful stillness is the act of letting go. This profound art is not a grand, one-time gesture reserved for life-altering intentions. It is a muscle that must be built through daily practice. In the small moments of life, letting go is a skill you can train every single day. When you are caught in an unexpected traffic jam and you feel the hot energy of frustration rising in your chest, that is an opportunity. Can you let go of your need for the road to be clear? And instead, use the time to listen to a piece of music you love or just breathe. That is a rep. When a conversation with a loved one doesn't go according to your mental script, can you let go of your need to be right or to control their response? And simply listen with an open heart. That is a rep. When the package you ordered is delayed, or the Wi-Fi goes down, or it rains on the day you planned a picnic. Each moment of friction is a sacred invitation from the universe to practice letting go. Each time you choose peace over frustration, you weaken the ego's reflexive grip and strengthen your muscle of trust. This daily practice prepares you, making it infinitely easier to let go and trust the process when it comes to the bigger intentions for your life. In the end, letting go is the ultimate act of co-creation. It is the supreme vote of confidence in the universe. It is the wisdom of the surfer who stops fighting the wave and starts riding it. The wisdom of the river navigator who raises a sail to the wind. The wisdom of the Zen archer who trusts the arrow's flight after a perfect release. It is the essential and liberating art of getting out of your own way. You have placed your order with the cosmos. Now, you must trust the kitchen to prepare your meal and the waiter to deliver it. Your desperate need to barge into the kitchen and supervise the chef only slows down the process. But this act of trust, this radical surrender of the how, requires a new way of navigating our lives. If we are to put down the ego's detailed, turn-by-turn map, we will need a different kind of guidance system to know which way to go. We need an inner compass, a system that speaks not in the rigid language of logic, but in the subtle, resonant language of feeling. We must now learn how to tune out the noise and listen to the quiet, unerring voice of our own intuition. Having released our grip on the how, we find ourselves in a space of profound trust. We have surrendered the ego's frantic need for a detailed map, and in its place, we have agreed to use a different, more ancient form of navigation. This guidance system is not external. It is woven into the very fabric of our being. It is a quiet, unering inner kompass, a dormant superpower that every single one of us possesses. We call it intuition. For many, the word itself is shrouded in mystery, seen as a rare gift bestowed upon a select few mystics and visionaries. But this is untrue. Intuition is your birthright. It is a fundamental part of your human hardware, a subtle radio frequency that is constantly broadcasting guidance, wisdom, and insight. The problem is that we have been conditioned to live our lives tuned to the loud, chaotic, static-filled channels of the analytical mind and the fearful ego. The work, then, is not to create an intuitive signal, but to learn, finally, how to quiet the noise and tune into the wisdom that is already there. To begin this process of tuning in, we must first demystify what intuition actually is. The logical mind resists what it cannot understand. So let's provide it with a framework. Intuition is not magic. It is mechanics. It is the phenomenal capacity of your subconscious mind to process vast amounts of information at a speed that dwarfs the conscious mind. Your conscious thinking mind is like the small tip of an iceberg, the part that is visible above the surface of the water. It can only juggle a few pieces of information at any given time. But your subconscious mind is the massive, unseen 9/10 of the iceberg that lies beneath the waves. It is a living database that has meticulously stored every single experience you have ever had, every book you've read, every conversation you've overheard, every facial expression you've witnessed, every landscape you've seen. When you have an intuitive hunch, it is often your subconscious mind having cross-referenced billions of data points in a split second and sent a conclusion up to your conscious awareness. It has recognized a pattern that your conscious mind, with its limited processing power, has completely missed. This is why intuition so often feels like a knowing without knowing how you know. Furthermore, Intuition processes subtle energetic data. It is the part of you that can walk into a room and instantly feel the vibe. It is the faculty that registers the slight incongruence between someone's words and their body language. This is why we so often refer to intuition as a gut feeling. It is not an abstract thought. It is a physiological sensation, a form of holistic intelligence that the body comprehends long before the mind does. It is not magic. It is simply a broader bandwidth of perception. The most critical skill in developing this superpower is learning to discern the true, quiet signal of intuition from the loud, convincing counterfeit of fear. They speak in very different languages, and learning to tell them apart is paramount. The voice of fear is almost always loud, urgent, and emotional. It often feels like a bully, shouting at you, demanding you take immediate action to avoid a catastrophic outcome. It is fixated on the past, using old traumas and failures as evidence for why you should not take a risk. It speaks in the language of what if. What if you fail? What if they reject you? What if you lose everything? In the body, fear feels constrictive, cold, and heavy. It creates a knot in your stomach and a tightness in your chest. Its ultimate goal is to keep you safe by keeping you small and stuck in the familiar. The voice of intuition, by contrast, is almost always quiet, calm, and neutral. It does not try to convince you with emotion or logic. It often arrives as a simple, clear, and persistent whisper, a gentle nudge, or a sudden flash of insight that feels peaceful and right, even if the guidance itself points toward a challenging action. In the body, true intuition feels expansive, light, and resonant. It doesn't cause a frantic panic. It brings a sense of clarity and peace. It doesn't push or pull. It simply presents itself as a truth for you to act on. Fear screams, "Don't you dare apply for that job. You're not qualified, and you'll only make a fool of yourself." Intuition whispers, "It might be interesting to send in your resume. Let's see what happens." Fear is about avoiding a negative. Intuition is about moving toward a quiet, often unseen positive. Consider the story of a legendary CEO, a woman known for her uncanny ability to navigate treacherous market conditions. Her company was at a crossroads, facing a major decision about a potential merger with another firm. On paper, the deal was perfect. The data was unequivocal. The spreadsheets, the market analyses, the projections from a team of brilliant advisors all screamed that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. To refuse the deal would be illogical, a dereliction of her duty to the shareholders. In the boardroom, a parade of experts presented compelling, data-driven arguments in favor of the merger. The CEO listened patiently to every word. She understood the logic perfectly. And yet, she had a persistent, quiet feeling deep in her gut. It wasn't a panic. It wasn't a loud alarm. It was just a calm, firm, and unwavering no. There was no data to support it, no chart to explain it. Just a simple, unshakable knowing that this path was wrong. Her team thought she was being irrational. They pleaded with her to follow the evidence, but having built her career on trusting this inner compass, she made the courageous and deeply unpopular decision to walk away from the deal. Months later, the truth came out. The other company was embroiled in a massive, hidden accounting scandal that would have utterly destroyed her own firm had the merger gone through. Her intuition had perceived the subtle dissonance, the energetic incongruity that the spreadsheets and data could never reveal. She had trusted the quiet whisper over the deafening roar of logic. And in doing so, she had saved her entire company. Like the CEO, we must learn to trust and strengthen this inner faculty. Intuition is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger and more reliable it becomes. The first step in this training is to quiet the noise. You cannot hear a whisper during a hurricane. Practices like meditation, Spending quiet time in nature, or simply scheduling periods of digital silence are not luxuries. They are essential for creating the inner stillness required to hear your intuitive voice. Secondly, begin an active dialogue. Keep a journal, and at the start of each day, ask simple questions. What does my soul want me to know today, or what is one thing I can do to move closer to my alignment then? Write down the very first thought, image, or feeling that arises, without judgment or analysis. This is the practice of listening. But the most crucial step of all is to act on the guidance you receive. Start with the small, low-stakes nudges. When you get a sudden urge to call a friend you haven't spoken to in ages, do it. When you feel a pull to take a different route home from work, take it. When a specific book seems to be calling to you from a shelf, read it. Every time you honor one of these small intuitive hits, you are building a powerful feedback loop of trust. You are sending a message to your subconscious that you are listening. And you are proving to your conscious mind that this guidance system is valid. By consistently honoring the small nudges, you build the courage and the trust required to follow the big ones when they arrive. We can now see that intuition is not a whimsical or unreliable fantasy. It is our birthright, a built-in guidance system, a superpower waiting to be activated. It is the voice of our deepest self, our connection to the wider intelligence of the universe. By learning to demystify it, to distinguish its calm signal from the static of fear, and by courageously practicing acting on its gentle guidance, we transform it from a fleeting whisper into a powerful and reliable compass for our lives. But even as we learn to listen, we recognize that there is one non-negotiable prerequisite for hearing its subtle voice. It requires a mind that is not lost in the endless chatter of past regrets and future anxieties. To truly hear the whisper of intuition, we must first learn to stand firmly in the one and only place where our true power exists. The one place where peace and clarity can be found. We must learn to fully inhabit the sacred space of the present moment. We have arrived at a truth that is at once profoundly simple and incredibly difficult for the modern mind to grasp. To hear the quiet whisper of our intuition, to enter the frictionless state of flow, we must first learn to quiet the relentless noise of our own mind. And this mental chatter, this storm of thought that drains our energy and creates our suffering, is fueled by one thing and one thing only: our habit of living in time. We are a species of time travelers. We spend our days wandering through the graveyards of the past or projecting ourselves into the imaginary landscapes of the future. The one place we are rarely found is in the only place life ever actually occurs: right here, right now. This habit of mental time travel is not a harmless quirk. It is the single greatest obstacle to the life of ease, grace, and power we seek to create. The present moment is not just a fleeting point on a timeline. It is a sacred space, a portal, and learning to inhabit it is the master key to everything that follows. Let us first examine the two phantom realms where we spend most of our lives: the past and the future. The past exists only as a library of memories in your mind. While it can be a useful resource to draw lessons from, we do not treat it as a library. We treat it as a house that we haunt. We walk its halls day after day, replaying old conversations, reopening old wounds, reliving old failures, and polishing the trophies of old glories. We allow these ghostly memories to define who we believe we are in the present, forgetting that the stories are over. The ink is dry. This is akin to driving a car while staring exclusively into the rearview mirror. A crash is not just possible, it is inevitable. The emotion that powers this obsession with the past is regret. A heavy, low-frequency energy that anchors us to what is gone and prevents us from moving forward. The future, on the other hand, is a realm of pure imagination. It does not exist anywhere except as a projection of our own mind. It is a blank canvas upon which we could paint anything. But what do we so often choose to paint? We paint vivid, detailed murals of our fears. We engage in an endless, agonizing cycle of what-ifs. What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if my partner leaves me? The primary emotion of future dwelling is anxiety. Affrontique. Draining energy that burns up our life force on events that have not happened and likely never will. Regret and anxiety. The twin thieves of past and future are the ultimate energy vampires. Every single unit of your precious, vital energy that you spend ruminating on yesterday or worrying about tomorrow is a unit of energy that is stolen from the only point where it has any power at all, the present moment. The alternative to this self-inflicted prison of time is to discover the liberating power of the now. The present moment is the only point of access you will ever have to life. You cannot feel the sun of yesterday on your skin. You cannot taste the meal you might eat tomorrow. All of your power, all of your senses, and all of your creativity exist only and always in this very moment. When you drop your attention fully into the now, the thinking mind, the ego, begins to starve. The ego cannot survive without time. It needs the past to construct its grievances and its identity. And it needs the future to project its fears and its desires. When you become intensely present with your senses, there is no past or future for the mind to feed on. And so it naturally falls quiet. This is the direct portal to flow. By its very definition, flow is a state of total immersion in the present task. Intuition is a subtle whisper that can only be heard in the stillness of the present moment. Therefore, practicing presence is not some esoteric spiritual luxury. It is the most practical and potent skill you can possibly develop for living a life of less effort and more results. It is the act of coming home to yourself, to the only place you have ever truly been. The profound power of this simple practice is beautifully illustrated in the teachings of Zen masters. A young, brilliant, and impatient student comes to a renowned Zen master. Desperate to learn the secrets of enlightenment, he bombards the master with complex questions about ancient scriptures, metaphysical concepts, and advanced meditative techniques. The master listens patiently, then says nothing, and begins the simple act of preparing tea. The student watches, growing increasingly frustrated, thinking this is a frivolous waste of his precious time. He wants big answers, not a beverage, but the master continues, performing the traditional tea ceremony. He does so with a quality of attention that captivates the student. He is not thinking about making tea. He is the making of the tea. His awareness is total. He is one with the feel of the rough ceramic cup, the scent of the steam rising from the kettle, the delicate sound of the water pouring. His movements are unhurried, graceful, and saturated with presence. He hands the finished cup of tea to the student. As the student is about to launch into another intellectual question, he is silenced by the palpable aura of peace that radiates from the master. The master finally speaks, his voice quiet and clear. You look for enlightenment in big ideas about the future. He says, but it is not there. It is only here, in this single breath, in this cup of tea. When you are drinking tea, just drink the tea. When you are washing the bowls, just wash the bowls. In that simple act of total presence, you will find everything you are looking for. The lesson is clear. The sublime is not found by escaping the ordinary, but by inhabiting it so completely that it becomes sacred. Peace, flow, and enlightenment are not distant destinations. They are states of being available to you in the simplest of moments. As soon as you choose to be fully present for them, you do not need to retreat to a monastery to practice this. You can anchor yourself in the present moment, right now, wherever you are. The most powerful and portable anchor you have is your own breath. Your breath is always with you, and it is always, without exception, happening in the now. You cannot take the breath you took a minute ago, nor can you take tomorrow's breath. Simply bring your awareness to the physical sensation of the air entering your body, filling your lungs, and then the sensation of it leaving. One conscious breath is enough to pull you out of the frantic storm of your mind and back into the calm center of your being. Another potent technique is to engage your five senses to ground you in your physical reality. Right now, in this moment, take a pause. What are five distinct things you can see? Notice their colors, shapes, and textures. What are four things you can physically feel? The pressure of the chair against your back, the fabric of your clothes, the temperature of the air on your skin. What are three things you can hear? The distant traffic, the hum of a computer, the sound of your own breathing. What are two things you can smell? What is one thing you can taste? This simple exercise immediately pulls your awareness out of the abstract world of thought and into the rich, vibrant world of present moment sensory experience. Finally, you can practice what the Zen master taught. Choose one routine daily activity: brushing your teeth, sipping your morning coffee, tying your shoes, and for those few minutes, do it with the entirety of your being, as if it were the most important and fascinating task in the universe. As we commit to this practice, we realize that life is not the grand narrative of our past or the hopeful fantasy of our future. Life is, and has only ever been, a series of present moments. By repeatedly anchoring ourselves in the now, we sever the fuel line to the fearful ego. We quiet the noisy mind, and we create the inner stillness where intuition can be heard and flow can arise spontaneously. The ordinary tasks of our lives cease to be chores and become opportunities for meditation and peace. And when we begin to live more and more from this state of heightened presence, a strange and wonderful phenomenon occurs. We start to notice the intricate patterns, the hidden connections, the meaningful coincidences that were always there, but were previously rendered invisible by our distracted minds. We begin to see the winks and nods from the universe, and we start to learn the magical language of synchronicity. As we learn to anchor ourselves more and more in the calm harbor of the present moment, something extraordinary begins to happen. The world, which once seemed like a random and often chaotic collection of events, starts to reveal a hidden layer of intelligence and meaning. Our heightened state of awareness allows us to perceive a subtle dialogue that was always occurring but was previously drowned out by the noise of our own minds. We begin to notice the winks and nods from the universe. Have you ever been wrestling with a difficult problem, only to overhear a snippet of a stranger's conversation that contains the perfect solution? Have you ever thought of an old friend for the first time in a decade, only to have them send you a message that very same afternoon? Have you found yourself seeing the same symbol, hearing the same phrase, or noticing the same sequence of numbers over and over again in a short period of time? These are not mere statistical quirks or random coincidences. They are instances of a profound and magical principle at play in our lives. They are cosmic breadcrumbs, road signs on our journey, evidence that we are part of an interactive, responsive universe. They are moments of synchronicity. The term synchronicity was coined by the brilliant Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, a man who was as much a mystic as he was a scientist. He was fascinated by these meaningful coincidences, events that seemed to defy the simple laws of probability and causality. He proposed that in addition to the familiar principle of cause and effect, there exists another, unseen force that connects events not by a physical chain reaction, but by their symbolic meaning. He called this a causal connecting principle. To understand this, consider that most of the world we experience is governed by causality. A gust of wind blows a door shut. The cause is the wind. The effect is the shut door. This is linear and predictable. Synchronicity, however, operates differently. It is the meaningful alignment of an inner event, a thought, a feeling, a question, a dream with an outer event in the physical world. The inner event does not cause the outer event in any classical sense. Rather, they are two separate reflections of the same underlying, hidden order. It suggests that the universe is not just a physical machine, but also a living, symbolic tapestry, and that our own consciousness is woven into that very fabric. When we are aligned and present, we are able to perceive the beautiful and intricate patterns of that tapestry as they unfold in our own lives. Once you become open to this idea, you will start to see that synchronicity speaks in a rich and varied language. It communicates through repetition. You might be considering a move to a new city. Say, Portland. And suddenly, you hear the name Portland 3 times in a single day from completely unrelated sources. It speaks through timely messages. You're feeling lost and confused. And you turn on the radio to a song whose lyrics speak directly to your heart, offering the exact encouragement you needed to hear. It speaks through meaningful encounters. You are struggling to learn a new skill, and you attend a party where you are randomly introduced to an expert in that very field. And in our modern world, it very often speaks through numbers. Many people report the experience of frequently glancing at the clock at exactly 11:11, or seeing repeating number sequences like 333 or 444 on license plates, receipts, and billboards. The power here is not necessarily in the specific numerological meaning of the numbers themselves, but in the act of noticing. It is the universe using a simple, unmistakable pattern to give you a gentle tap on the shoulder. A little nudge that says, "Pay attention. You are in a state of heightened alignment right now. You are awake." To see how these elements weave together. Imagine a woman working as an accountant, a job she finds safe but unfulfilling. She has a secret passion for gardening and sets a clear intention to explore a career in landscape design. The very next day, while flipping through a magazine at a doctor's office, she stumbles upon a feature article about a world-renowned landscape designer. A few days later, while waiting in line for coffee, she overhears the 2 people in front of her excitedly discussing a new horticulture course being offered at the local community college. The following week, a friend invites her to a barbecue, where she is introduced to a man whose sister, it turns out, runs a highly successful landscaping business in a nearby town. None of these events caused the others. The magazine article did not cause the conversation, which did not cause the introduction at the party. But they are all undeniably and meaningfully connected. They are the universe reflecting her intention back to her, laying out a trail of luminous breadcrumbs for her to follow. So what are we to make of these signs? What is their purpose in our journey? Primarily, synchronicities serve as powerful confirmations. They are the universe's way of letting you know that your intention has been heard and that you are moving in the right direction. They are cosmic affirmations that dissolve doubt and build your faith in the unseen process of creation. That repeated glimpse of 11:11 on the clock can be interpreted as a simple, loving message. Yes, keep going. You are on the right path. At other times, a synchronicity is more than just a passive confirmation. It is an active invitation. The woman's chance encounter with the man whose sister runs a landscaping business is not just a neat story to tell. It is an open door. It is an invitation from the universe to take a small, aligned action. It is a prompt to be curious, to ask a question, to say, "That's fascinating. I've been thinking about getting into that field myself. Would your sister perhaps be open to a 5-minute phone call for some advice?" Synchronicity often delivers the next piece of the how that we have so bravely surrendered, presenting it not as a demand, but as a gentle opportunity for us to engage with. The ultimate interpretation of any synchronicity is a deeply personal process, and the key is to notice how it feels. Does the experience feel light, expansive, exciting, or resonant? That is a universal green light. As you become more attuned to this cosmic dialogue, it is essential to cultivate the right attitude, one of relaxed awareness, not frantic obsession. The goal is not to become a paranoid sign seeker, desperately trying to interpret every fallen leaf and passing cloud as a message from the divine. That is the ego attempting to regain control of the process, turning a joyful dance into an anxious new chore. The correct approach is one of grateful curiosity. When a synchronicity occurs, the practice is to simply pause, notice it, and offer a quiet, internal smile of acknowledgement. A simple thank you is enough. You have received the message. You have seen the wink. If it presents an obvious invitation, consider it with an open heart. But do not torture yourself trying to decipher some complex, hidden meaning in every little thing. Let these moments be a source of magic and encouragement on your journey. A delightful reminder that you are not alone, that you are part of a responsive and intelligent cosmos that is actively conspiring in your favor. This ongoing, interactive dance with the universe is a beautiful and profoundly affirming experience when the signs are positive. When the universe presents us with open doors, helpful strangers, and inspiring messages. But life is not always so simple. What happens when the universe sends us something that looks less like a helpful road sign and more like a massive roadblock? What are we to make of adversity, of challenges, of painful setbacks? Are these messages too? To truly master the art of living in a state of flow, we must be willing to go deeper, to reframe our entire relationship with difficulty itself. We must be willing to entertain the radical idea that sometimes the obstacle is not in the way. Sometimes the obstacle is the way. The dance with the universe is graceful and joyous when the music is sweet. When the synchronicities unfold as open doors and helpful encounters. But inevitably, the music will change. The path will become steep. The clear sky will cloud over. And what appears before us is not a helpful signpost, but a formidable wall. A roadblock that seems to halt all our progress. It is in these moments of adversity, failure, and pain that our practice is truly tested. It is easy to trust the process when the process feels good. But what about when it hurts? Our conditioned response is to see these obstacles as proof that we have done something wrong, that we have taken a wrong turn, that the universe is punishing us or has abandoned our cause. But what if this interpretation is fundamentally flawed? What if these challenges are not deviations from the path, but are the path itself? This is the core teaching of a powerful and ancient philosophy. A practical wisdom forged in the crucible of the Roman Empire by men like the slave Epictetus and the emperor Marcus Aurelius. It is the philosophy of Stoicism, and its central, life-altering principle can be summarized in 3 revolutionary words. The obstacle is the way. The bedrock of this empowering worldview is a simple yet profound concept the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. It states that, in any and every situation, the events of our lives can be divided into 2 distinct categories: those things which are within our control, and those which are not. The list of things outside of our control is vast. It includes the weather, the economy, the traffic, the past, the future, and, most importantly, the opinions and actions of other people. The list of things within our control is deceptively short, yet infinitely powerful. It contains only our own thoughts, our judgments, our perspectives, and our responses to the events that unfold. The vast majority of human suffering, our anger, our anxiety, our frustration, our despair, is a direct result of our futile attempt to control the uncontrollable. We become enraged at the traffic, as if our anger could part the cars. We are consumed with anxiety about a future we cannot dictate. We are wounded by the criticism of others, forgetting that their opinions belong to them, not to us. This is a complete and utter waste of our precious life force energy. The Stoic insight is a call to radical focus. It is the practice of withdrawing all of our energy from the vast field of the uncontrollable and investing it entirely in the one domain where we are sovereign, our own inner world. This is not an act of passivity. It is the ultimate strategic allocation of our power, ensuring that we no longer waste our effort fighting battles we can never win, and instead use it to master the one battle that can truly be won, the battle for our own mind. This mastery begins with an act of inner alchemy, the alchemy of perception. The Stoics understood that no event, in and of itself, is inherently good or bad, positive or negative. An event is simply a neutral fact. It is the story we tell ourselves about the event, our judgment of it, that infuses it with meaning and emotion. A project fails. One person can interpret this as a catastrophe, a sign of their incompetence, a reason to give up. Another person can see the very same event as a valuable lesson, an opportunity to find the flaws in their strategy, a necessary step on the path to mastery. The event is the same, but the internal response creates two entirely different realities. This is where we must learn to ask a different question. When faced with a roadblock, the default victim mindset asks, "Why is this happening to me?" This question is a trap. It immediately casts you as a passive victim and the universe as a cruel aggressor. It leads only to powerlessness, blame, and self-pity. The empowered Stoic mindset asks a different, far more powerful question. How is this happening for me? Or, what is this obstacle trying to teach me? This simple shift in language transforms the entire dynamic. It presupposes that the challenge is not a random punishment, but a purposeful curriculum designed specifically for your growth. The difficult client isn't happening to you. They are happening for you to master the art of patience and clear communication. The unexpected financial loss isn't happening to you. It's happening for you to reevaluate your relationship with security and discover your own resilience. The obstacle is no longer an enemy. It is a teacher in disguise. The perfect metaphor for this transformative process is found in the quiet depths of the ocean. In the creation of a pearl, an oyster lives its life in peaceful equilibrium. Then, one day, an unwelcome intruder violates its sanctuary. A sharp grain of sand, a tiny parasite, a piece of shell lodges itself within the oyster's soft, vulnerable inner tissue. This is the obstacle. It is an agitating, uncomfortable, and potentially fatal source of stress. The oyster could easily be overcome by this irritant, becoming diseased and dying. But it does something remarkable instead. It chooses to engage in a creative act. It begins to secrete a beautiful, milky, iridescent substance called nacre. It does not expel the source of its pain. Instead, it begins to coat the sharp, irritating grain of sand with this luminous substance. Layer upon patient layer, it envelops its greatest source of suffering with its greatest resource of beauty. Over a long period of time, this patient, creative act of transformation yields a miraculous result. The sharpest, most painful irritant in its life becomes a smooth, shimmering, and priceless pearl. We are all the oyster, and life will inevitably send us our own grains of sand. The harsh criticism, the painful loss, the unexpected failure. We have a choice. We can allow these irritants to wound us, to make us bitter and weak. Or we can learn to secrete our own form of nacre, our patience, our creativity, our resilience, our wisdom, and transform our deepest wounds into our most beautiful strengths. This is the highest level of our practice, to not just endure adversity, but to flow with it and through it. It is easy to be in flow when the sun is shining and the path is clear. The ultimate test is whether you can maintain your inner state of calm, presence, and focus when the storms of life are raging around you. This is where all of our tools converge. You use the Stoic dichotomy of control to accept what you cannot change. Conserving your energy, you use the practice of presence to anchor yourself in the safety of the now. Refusing to be drawn into catastrophic thinking about the future, you use your intuition to feel for the next right, small step, even when the grand path is obscured. To flow through the fire is not to be numb or emotionless. It is to feel the heat without being consumed by it. It is to be the calm, unwavering eye in the center of the hurricane, observing the chaos without becoming it. This is true power. This is indestructible peace. Adversity, then, is not a sign that you have lost your way or that the universe has turned its back on you. It is a sacred invitation. It is the universe trusting you with a difficult curriculum, knowing that you have the capacity to learn the lesson it contains. It is life presenting you with a grain of sand and asking, what beautiful pearl will you create from this? By embracing this wisdom, by controlling our perceptions, by asking what each challenge is here to teach us, and by transforming our irritants into our strengths, we discover the ultimate truth of our journey. The obstacles do not block the path forward. They are the path forward. But this remarkable ability to find the gift in the grievance, to see the opportunity in the obstacle, requires the constant cultivation of a profoundly transformative emotional state. It requires a frequency that can alchemize pain into wisdom. To truly master this art, we must now explore the single most powerful state-changing tool available to us, the profound and life-altering power of gratitude. We have learned to see the obstacles on our path not as roadblocks, but as a curriculum designed for our own evolution. We have embraced the Stoic ideal of transforming adversity into strength, of creating a pearl from an irritating grain of sand. But to perform this profound inner alchemy, we require a catalyst, a universal solvent capable of dissolving pain and revealing the hidden gift within any circumstance. This catalyst is not a complex technique or a secret doctrine. It is an emotional state so fundamental that we often dismiss it as a simple courtesy, a mere social nicety. It is the power of gratitude. We have been taught to think of gratitude as a reaction, a polite thank you that we offer after we have received something good. This is a profound misunderstanding of its power. Gratitude is not the effect. It is the cause. It is not the celebration after the victory. It is the vibrational state that makes victory possible. It is the master frequency, the ultimate state changer, and the golden key that unlocks the floodgates of universal abundance. To grasp this, we must return to the physics of vibration. As we've established, the universe is an energetic field that responds not to our words of wanting, but to the undeniable frequency of our being. When we live from a mindset of scarcity, our focus is perpetually on what is missing. We lament the money we don't have, the love we haven't found, the success we haven't achieved. Our dominant feeling is one of lack, of a hole or a void in our lives. This feeling is a powerful, low-frequency broadcast by the immutable law of resonance. A universe that is a perfect mirror can only reflect this state of lack back to us, bringing us more circumstances and experiences that validate our feeling of deficiency. It is a painful, self-perpetuating cycle of wanting that only creates more wanting. Gratitude is the force that shatters this cycle. Gratitude is the feeling state, the literal vibration of already having enough. When you feel a moment of genuine, heartfelt appreciation, whether it is for the miraculous complexity of your own hand, the taste of clean water, or the beauty of a sunset, you are broadcasting a powerful, high-frequency signal of fullness and wholeness. You are telling the universe, on an energetic level, I am provided for, I am complete. This is not about denying the challenges in your life. It is about consciously shifting your energetic point of focus. In that moment of gratitude, the gap between you and your desire dissolves. Because gratitude is the frequency of receiving, you become a vibrational match for abundance. Not in the future, but right now, and the universe, in its flawless reflection, must begin to orchestrate a reality that brings you more and more experiences that match this beautiful frequency. More things to be grateful for. This transformative power is not just a metaphysical theory. It is a neurological fact. The practice of gratitude is a direct intervention in the chemistry of your own brain. Neuroscientific studies have shown that when we consistently cultivate feelings of appreciation, it has profound and measurable effects on our biology. The practice stimulates activity in the hypothalamus, a key region of the brain that regulates functions like stress, sleep, and appetite. It also directly boosts the production of two of the most important neurotransmitters for our well-being, dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine is often called the reward molecule, associated with pleasure, motivation, and focus. Serotonin is the great mood stabilizer, contributing to feelings of well-being and happiness. In essence, practicing gratitude is like accessing a natural, internal pharmacy that dispenses powerful antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication with no negative side effects. This creates a beautiful, upward spiral. When you practice gratitude, your brain releases these feel-good chemicals, which makes you feel better. When you feel better, it becomes easier to spot other things to be grateful for. This, in turn, releases more happy chemicals, and the cycle continues. You are literally rewiring your neural pathways, training your brain to scan your environment for the positive, instead of habitually scanning for threats and problems. The stark difference between a life lived in gratitude and one lived in dissatisfaction is illustrated in the simple parable of the two merchants. In a bustling city lived two men. The first in Zins, Amir, was a wealthy textile merchant who lived in a grand house with servants and wore the finest silks. Yet, his heart was a desert of discontent. He woke each morning complaining about the burden of his taxes. He spent his days berating his employees for not working harder and cursing his competitors for their success. He looked at his vast fortune and saw only what wasn't there yet. His every conversation was laced with complaint. His every thought was tinged with lack. Though surrounded by wealth, he lived in a state of profound spiritual poverty. Not far away, a humble fruit vendor named Kale pushed his small cart through the same city streets. He lived in a simple room, and his clothes were patched but clean. Yet, his heart was an overflowing fountain of joy. He woke each morning and offered a silent thank you for the warmth of the sun on his face. He felt a wave of gratitude for the sweet smell of the ripe mangoes on his cart. He cherished the friendly smiles of his regular customers and was thankful for the simple strength in his legs that allowed him to work. He lived in a state of perpetual appreciation for the small, abundant gifts of his daily life. Though a man of simple means, he lived in a state of profound spiritual richness. Now, who is truly the wealthier man? The answer is clear. Amir, in his mansion of misery, repels joy and opportunity with his sour, contracted energy. Kale, with his card of contentment, attracts kindness, connection, and success with his warm, expansive energy. Kyle's gratitude is a creative force, building his world day by day. Amir's dissatisfaction is a destructive force, eroding his world from the inside out. Cultivating this alchemical power is a simple, practical skill. The most common and effective tool is the gratitude journal. At the beginning or end of your day, take just 3 minutes to write down 3 to 5 specific things you are grateful for. The key is specificity. Do not just write, "I'm grateful for my family." Write, "I am grateful for the way my partner's eyes crinkled when they smiled at me this morning." Specificity forces your brain to relive the positive experience, deepening the neurological benefit. A more active practice is what some call a gratitude rampage. When you feel yourself slipping into a negative state, simply start listing things you are grateful for, one after another, either out loud or in your mind, letting the momentum build. I am so grateful for this breath. I am grateful for this chair holding me. I am grateful for the technology that allows me to hear this. I am grateful for the memory of a good meal. I am grateful for the existence of music. You will be astonished at how quickly this can shift your entire emotional and vibrational state. But the highest form of this practice, the true mastery, is to bring gratitude to your challenges. This is the work of the oyster. It is the ability to look at the grain of sand, the irritant, and say with sincerity, "I am grateful for this difficult situation, because it is forcing me to become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate." This is the alchemy that transforms pain into power. Gratitude, then, is not a passive virtue. It is an active, creative force. It is the native language of an abundant universe. a powerful tool for rewiring your brain for happiness, and the ultimate alchemical agent for transforming your entire state of being. It is the recognition that the richness we seek is not something to be acquired in the future, but something to be appreciated in the present. By practicing gratitude and presence, we perform a deep and powerful cleansing of our conscious mind. We learn to direct our focus and elevate our emotional state at will. But for these changes to become our new foundation, for the state of flow to become our default way of life rather than just a temporary visitor, we must go one level deeper. We must begin to work with the powerful, silent architect of our reality, the vast and mysterious domain of the subconscious mind. We have learned to quiet the conscious mind through presence and to elevate its state through the practice of gratitude. These are powerful, essential tools for navigating our moment-to-moment experience. Yet, many of us find that despite our best efforts, we fall back into the same old ruts, the same self-sabotaging patterns, the same limiting emotional reactions. The same frustrating results seem to reappear, no matter how much conscious willpower we apply. Why does this happen? It happens because we have been working with only one half of our mind. The conscious half. We have been like a captain on the deck of a great ship, shouting new orders, while the massive, powerful crew in the engine room below continues to operate from a set of old, outdated training manuals. To truly and permanently change the course of the ship, we cannot just shout new commands. We must go down into the engine room and rewrite the manuals themselves. This engine room, this vast and powerful domain that controls almost everything we do, is the subconscious mind. To understand its power, we must first understand its nature. If your conscious mind is the captain, the subconscious is the ship itself and its entire automated crew. It is the vast, silent hard drive of your being, and it has recorded every sight, sound, and sensation you have ever experienced. It is the master automator. It controls all of your bodily functions that you never think about: your heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion. It also controls every single one of your learned habits and behaviors. When you drive a car, you are not consciously thinking about every turn of the wheel and press of the pedal. Your subconscious is running the driving program. The same is true for brushing your teeth, typing on a keyboard, and, most crucially, for your habitual emotional responses. The subconscious mind is not logical or analytical. It is habitual and literal. It learns through repetition and, most importantly, through emotional intensity. It does not know the difference between an event that is vividly imagined and an event that is physically real. Its primary directive is efficiency, to automate as much as possible so that your conscious mind is free to focus on new things. And most of this programming, the core of your belief system, it was installed before you were even aware it was happening, primarily between the ages of 0 and 7, when your brain was in a constant, highly receptive theta wave state, absorbing the beliefs, habits, and emotional patterns of your parents, your teachers, and your culture like a dry sponge absorbs water. It is these deep-seated programs, or beliefs, that create the self-fulfilling prophecies of our lives. A belief is nothing more than a thought you have thought over, and over, and over again, until it has sunk from the conscious mind into the subconscious and been accepted as a fundamental truth about reality. Let us say that as a child, you absorbed the belief: you have to work incredibly hard to make money. This belief is now part of your subconscious operating manual. Now, as an adult, you consciously set an intention for financial ease. An opportunity arises, a chance to invest in a friend's business, an idea for a passive income stream. Your conscious mind is excited, but your subconscious, the loyal servant, detects a conflict. This opportunity looks too easy, and it violates the core directive that money must be hard. To maintain the integrity of its programming, the subconscious will perceive this easy opportunity as a threat. It will then subtly orchestrate your behavior to sabotage it. It will make you feel suddenly lazy and procrastinate on the paperwork. It will fill your mind with 1,000 doubts. It will make you say the wrong thing in a crucial meeting. You will miss the opportunity. And your reality will once again confirm your deep-seated belief. See, making money really is hard. The subconscious is not being malicious. It is being unfailingly loyal to the instructions you have given it. It will always work to create coherence between your inner beliefs and your outer reality. Therefore, to change your outer reality, you have no choice but to change your inner beliefs. This is the great work of our lives. It is the work of becoming a conscious gardener of the vast and fertile soil of our subconscious mind. For years, perhaps decades, the seeds of fear, doubt, and limitation have been sown by others and by our own uninspected thoughts. Weeds have grown wild, choking out the possibility for new growth. We cannot create a beautiful garden by simply ignoring the weeds. We must actively tend to it. This work is twofold. First, we must gently pull the weeds of our old programming. This begins with awareness. With the practices of presence and observation we have already discussed, it is the act of noticing your negative self-talk, of catching yourself in a limiting emotional pattern and saying, there is that old program running again. The second, and more powerful work, is to consciously and deliberately plant the new seeds you actually wish to grow. These seeds are our new, empowering beliefs. And the primary tool for planting them is the affirmation. An affirmation is a statement of a desired reality, spoken in the present tense, as if it is already true. Statements like, I am worthy and deserving of great love. Money flows to me easily and frequently from multiple sources. Or I am a confident and creative being. But simply repeating these words is not enough. You must water these seeds with the power of emotion and visualization. When you say your affirmation, close your eyes and feel the feeling of it being true. Visualize what your life looks like from that new belief. This emotional charge is what makes the soil of the subconscious fertile. The best time to do this gardening work is during what are sometimes called the golden hours, the period right after you wake up in the morning and right before you fall asleep at night. In these states, your analytical, conscious mind is groggy and less likely to raise objections, and your brain naturally dips back into that receptive, theta wave state, opening the gateway to the subconscious. Planting these seeds during these times is like seeding a field during a gentle, nourishing rain. When you commit to this work of reprogramming your subconscious, you are engaging in the ultimate less-effort strategy. Trying to achieve conscious goals that are in direct opposition to your subconscious programming is like trying to swim up a powerful river. It requires immense, exhausting, and constant effort, and you make very little progress. You are in a state of perpetual internal conflict. The work of reprogramming is the act of turning your entire being around to face downstream. Once your subconscious beliefs are aligned with your conscious desires, the river of life begins to carry you. Actions that once felt difficult now feel natural. You will be nudged from within to make the right call, to have the right conversation, to be in the right place at the right time. The internal resistance that once plagued you simply dissolves, because the captain and the crew are finally working from the same set of instructions, sailing together in perfect harmony. We are, in every sense, run by the programs we hold in the quiet depths of our minds. Our faithful subconscious will work tirelessly, day and night, to create a reality that perfectly matches our deepest held beliefs about ourselves and the world. To manifest a new reality, we must take on the sacred responsibility of becoming the master programmer of our own minds. We must become conscious gardeners, diligently uprooting the old weeds of limitation and patiently planting, watering, and nurturing the new seeds of the magnificent reality we choose to create. This work is profound, and it touches every facet of our lives. But there is one particular weed, one deep-seated program that has been so culturally glorified, and so personally feared that it holds more people back from their true potential than almost any other. It is our fraught, painful, and deeply misunderstood relationship with the concept of failure. In our journey to become the conscious gardeners of our minds, we must now turn our attention to one of the most toxic and deeply rooted weeds in the entire garden. It is a weed that has been watered by our culture, our education system, and our own inner critic for our entire lives. It is a program so powerful that the mere thought of it can induce paralysis, anxiety, and shame. It is our fraught and profoundly misunderstood relationship with failure. For most of us, the word itself lands with the heavy finality of a judge's gavel. It is a verdict on our worth, a declaration of our inadequacy. We see failure as the opposite of success, a dead-end street, a permanent mark of disgrace that we must avoid at all costs. This single, deeply flawed belief is responsible for more abandoned dreams, unwritten books, and unlaunched businesses than any other force on earth. But what if this entire definition is a lie? What if failure is not the enemy of success, but its most crucial and indispensable partner? To unlock the state of consistent flow, we must perform a radical software update on our consciousness, deleting the old, toxic program of fear of failure and installing a new, empowered one, the understanding of failure as a gift. The first and most critical step in this reprogramming is to perform a kind of psychic surgery, to surgically separate our sense of self from the outcomes of our efforts. When a business venture fails, we do not simply say, "The business failed." We say, "I am a failure." When we get a rejection letter, we do not say, "This proposal was rejected." We feel, "I was rejected." We take an external event and we internalize it, fusing it with our core identity. This is a devastating trick of the ego, and it is the primary source of the pain we associate with failure. The shame, the humiliation, the sting of defeat, these feelings do not arise from the event itself, but from the brutal story we tell ourselves about what the event means about us. The first act of liberation is to break this fusion. It is to adopt, as a sacred mantra, the simple truth: failure is an event. It is never a person. An experiment can fail. A strategy can fail. An attempt can fail. But you, the conscious, creative being who is conducting the experiment, cannot. You are the scientist, not the test tube. You are the artist, not the discarded sketch. This conscious detachment immediately drains the emotional charge from the situation. It allows you to look at the failed event not as a reflection of your worth, but as a neutral occurrence, an interesting outcome from which you can now learn with a clear and objective mind. Once the emotional venom has been drawn out, we can begin to see failure for what it truly is. It is not a verdict. It is data. It is pure, unemotional, and profoundly valuable feedback from reality. When you attempt something and it does not work, the universe is not punishing you. It is simply giving you a clear and unambiguous piece of information. This specific approach, under these specific conditions, does not produce the result you intended. That is all. Imagine you are using a GPS to navigate to a new destination. If you take a wrong turn, the GPS does not collapse into a spiral of shame and despair. It doesn't shout, "You are a worthless driver. Your journey is over. Give up now." It simply, calmly, and immediately says, "Recalculating," and presents you with a new path based on the new information. Failure is life's recalculating signal. It is the compass of creation. When you are sailing in the open ocean, the wind that pushes you off course is just as important as the wind that pushes you forward, because it informs you of how you need to adjust your sails. Every no you receive, every closed door you encounter, is simply data that helps you eliminate the paths that are not for you, bringing you ever closer to the ones that are. When we learn to see failure in this light, the question we ask is no longer, What is wrong with me? It is. What is this data telling me? What is the strategic adjustment I need to make? This powerful mindset is perfectly embodied in the story of one of history's greatest innovators, Thomas Edison, in his quest to create a commercially viable, long-lasting electric light bulb. Edison and his team faced one of the most daunting series of failures in the history of invention. They understood the principle, but they needed to find the perfect filament, a material that could glow for hundreds of hours without burning out. They tested thousands upon thousands of different materials. They tested carbonized cotton threads, platinum, nickel, coconut fibers, horsehair, and even, legend has it, the beard hairs of a visiting colleague. One by one, each material failed, burning out too quickly or being too expensive. From the outside, it was a colossal, multi-year failure. A journalist, attempting to capture the scale of this struggle, reportedly asked him, "Mr. Edison, how does it feel to have failed over 10,000 times?" Edison's reply is a masterclass in the psychological reprogramming of failure. He looked at the reporter and said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This single statement reveals a consciousness completely detached from the shame of failure. He did not identify with the thousands of burnt-out filaments. He correctly identified each one not as a defeat, but as the successful acquisition of a crucial piece of data. He understood that the process of invention is not a straight line to the answer, but a systematic process of eliminating all the wrong answers. He was not avoiding failure. He was weaponizing it. He was using each data point to narrow the field of possibility, knowing that eventually, only the solution would remain. The man we celebrate for his brilliant success was, by his own metric, one of the most prolific and successful collectors of failure in history. This Edison mindset is now the driving force behind the most innovative sectors of our modern world. In the fast-paced culture of Silicon Valley and other entrepreneurial hubs, the mantra is not avoid failure at all costs, but fail fast and fail forward. The understanding is that in a complex and rapidly changing world, the only true failure is inaction. You cannot possibly predict the perfect business model or product from the safety of a conference room. The only way to discover what the market truly wants is to launch a minimum viable product, test it in the real world, and see how it performs. More often than not, it will fail. But that failure provides invaluable data about what customers do and do not want, allowing the team to quickly pivot, adjust, and launch a new iteration. The company that can go through this cycle of testing, failing, learning, and adjusting the fastest is the one that will ultimately win. The entrepreneur who has tried 10 ideas and failed at 9 is light years ahead of the one who is still perfecting their first business plan on paper, too terrified to expose it to the feedback of reality. We must therefore perform a complete inversion of our old, toxic programming. Failure is not a source of shame to be hidden. It is a source of data to be celebrated. It is not a sign that you should stop. It is a sign that you must learn, recalculate, and adjust your sails by consciously detaching our identity from the outcomes of our actions. By reframing failure as essential and unemotional feedback, and by embracing a spirit of rapid and curious experimentation, we transform our greatest fear into our most powerful ally. The path to success is not a pristine highway devoid of wreckage. It is a road paved with the lessons learned from 1,000 tiny failures, each one contributing to the wisdom, resilience, and clarity that ultimately guides us to our destination. This profound internal work of reprogramming our beliefs about failure and our other subconscious patterns is the very foundation of an effortless life. But how does this newly calibrated inner world translate into our tangible, creative output? How does a person who has embraced this philosophy actually create things differently? We must now turn our attention to the direct and dynamic relationship between the state of flow and the sacred act of creation itself. Having courageously reprogrammed our internal relationship with failure, transforming it from a dreaded verdict into valuable data. We have cleared one of the largest obstacles to our own potential. With the fear of being wrong largely dismantled, a new space opens up within us. A space of freedom, playfulness, and possibility. This is the space where true creativity is born. We often romanticize the creative process, picturing a tortured artist wrestling with their demons, or a solitary genius waiting for a dramatic bolt of lightning to strike. We have been taught that creativity is an act of struggle, a heroic battle between the artist and the blank page. But this, like the myth of hustle, is a profound and exhausting misunderstanding. Breakthrough creativity, the kind that feels magical and inspired, is not a product of force. It is the natural, effortless byproduct of the state of flow. The goal is not to wrestle with the muse of inspiration. It is to become a worthy and welcoming vessel for her to speak through. This requires a fundamental shift in identity, a move from seeing yourself as a creator to seeing yourself as a channel. The ego-driven model of creativity assumes that your conscious mind, are the sole source of the idea. It believes it must think up a brilliant concept, meticulously constructing it piece by piece with logic, willpower, and strain. This is the hustle culture applied to the arts. It is an exhausting process of squeezing inspiration out of a mind that was never meant to be its source. And it often results in work that feels contrived, intellectual, and lacking in soul. The flow-based model works from a completely different premise. It understands that great ideas, profound insights, and beautiful melodies already exist in a vast, universal field of consciousness. The artist's job is not to invent something from nothing, but to make themselves a hollow bone, a clear and open conduit through which this universal creativity can be received and given form. This perspective immediately dissolves the immense pressure to be brilliant. The responsibility is no longer on you to invent genius, but simply to do the work of clearing your own channel so that genius can flow through you. You are not the radio station. You are simply the radio. And your work is to tune the dial to a clear frequency and get out of your own way. While you cannot command the muse to appear, you can create an environment so welcoming, so sacred, that she is far more likely to visit. This is the power of ritual. Rituals are not superstitions. They are powerful psychological cues that transition our minds from their everyday mode of distraction and analysis into the focused, receptive state required for flow. The first element of ritual is a sacred space. This doesn't have to be a grand studio. It can be a simple corner of a room, a specific chair, a dedicated desk. What matters is that your brain learns to associate this specific place with the act of creation. When you enter your sacred space, you are signaling to yourself that it is time to do the work. The second element is sacred time. This means blocking out non-negotiable appointments with your creative self in your calendar. By treating this time with the same seriousness as a business meeting or a doctor's appointment, you are affirming its importance and making a powerful commitment to your practice. The third, and perhaps most crucial element, is the elimination of distractions. The muse is a shy visitor. The slightest ping of a notification, the briefest glance at an email, it can be enough to scare her away for the rest of the day. Your sacred space must be a fortress of solitude. Your phone should be off or in another room. All unnecessary tabs on your computer should be closed. You are creating a silent, the holy space to listen for a whisper. Finally, a warm-up ritual acts as a bridge into the creative state. For a writer, this might be 10 minutes of free writing on any topic. For a painter, it might be a few minutes of simple sketching. For a musician, it might be playing scales. This repeatable, low-stakes activity calms the analytical mind and gently eases you into the focused headspace of flow. Once you have set the stage, the greatest internal battle begins, the battle with the inner critic. This voice of judgment, which is resistance in its most insidious disguise. cannot coexist with the creative impulse. The act of generating new ideas and the act of evaluating them are fundamentally different neural processes. Trying to create and edit at the same time is like trying to drive a car with one foot on the accelerator and one foot on the brake. The result is a jerky, frustrating paralysis. The solution is to make a conscious pact with your inner critic. You must acknowledge its role and then politely ask it to leave. You can say to it, "I value your high standards and your keen eye for quality. Your job is essential for the finished product, but your job is not now. You are invited to come back tomorrow or next week when there is a finished draft for you to analyze. For now, you are on vacation. Thank you." With the critic banished, you can then give yourself the most important gift. Any creator can receive the permission to create a terrible first draft. The purpose of a first draft is not to be good. It is simply to be. It is to get the raw clay onto the table. You can shape it later. In the creative flow state, quantity is more important than quality, because it is through the act of producing that the gems are uncovered. Perfectionism is the voice of the ego and the enemy of all creation. Let it be messy. Let it be imperfect. Just let it flow. This act of letting go of control and allowing the process to unfold often leads to the most magical moments of creation, the aha or eureka moment. Creativity researchers often break the process down into 4 stages. First is preparation, where you immerse yourself in the subject, doing research, and intensely focusing your conscious mind on the problem. Second is incubation, which is where you let go. You take a walk. You have a shower. You get a good night's sleep. During this phase, your conscious mind is at rest, but your subconscious is hard at work, forming novel connections and exploring strange pathways between the ideas you loaded during preparation. The third stage is illumination. This is the moment the solution, the melody, the idea, suddenly bursts into your conscious awareness. Often when you least expect it, it feels like a gift, a sudden revelation. The final stage is verification, where you take this inspired idea and use your conscious, analytical mind to refine it and bring it into its final form. This process explains countless stories of artistic and scientific breakthrough. It famously explains how Paul McCartney of the Beatles received the melody for the song Yesterday. He said he woke up one morning with the entire beautiful melody complete in his head. He was so convinced that he must have heard it somewhere before that he spent weeks playing it for people, asking if they recognized it. They did not. The melody had been composed in the incubation of his sleep and delivered to him as a perfect, finished gift. The implications are staggering. True, profound creativity is not a matter of more effort, but of more trust. It is a dance between intense, focused work and complete, surrendered release. By seeing ourselves as open channels rather than beleaguered inventors, by creating sacred rituals to invite the state of flow, by consciously silencing our inner judge and giving ourselves the freedom to be imperfect, and by trusting the mysterious power of incubation, we get out of our own way. We allow an intelligence far more vast and brilliant than our own ego to flow through us, creating works that are not just constructed, but inspired. This state of creative flow, of effortless and joyful action, is not something to be confined to the solitary pursuits of art. Its principles of presence, surrender, and alignment can be applied to the most complex, dynamic, and rewarding art form of all, the art of our relationships with other people. We must now explore how the state of flow can transform the intricate dance of human connection. Having explored the inner landscape of the mind and the solitary journey of creative expression, we now turn to apply the principles of flow to the most dynamic, complex, and rewarding art form of all, the art of our relationships with other people. For many of us, our interactions with partners, family, friends, and colleagues are the source of our greatest joys, but also our most profound pains. They are often the arenas where we feel the most resistance, the most friction, and the most frustration. This is because we unknowingly bring the mindset of hustle and control into our connections. We try to manage people's feelings, to fix their flaws, to win arguments, to secure love, and to control outcomes. This approach inevitably turns our relationships into battlegrounds for the ego, filled with power struggles, resentment, and a constant, exhausting sense of effort. But there is another way. What if our connections could be less about management and more about resonance, less about conflict and more about collaboration? This is the transformation that occurs when we cease our striving and learn to invite the state of flow into the sacred space between us. The foundation of any flow-based relationship is the simple, yet radical, act of offering another person the gift of your complete presence. Think of most conversations in your life. Are you truly listening? Or are you merely waiting for your turn to speak? As the other person talks, is your mind quiet and receptive? Or is it busy formulating your response, preparing your rebuttal, recalling a similar story about yourself, or judging what they are saying most of the time? We are engaged in a conversation between two egos, not two human beings. It is a series of competing monologues, not a true dialogue. Deep listening is the antidote. It is the practice of bringing the same total, absorbed focus to another person that a musician brings to their music or a painter brings to their canvas. It means listening with your entire being. You hear not only their words, but you feel their emotional state. You notice the subtle shifts in their body language. You listen for the meaning and the feeling that lies unspoken behind their words. You are not listening to respond. You are listening to understand. When you offer someone this quality of attention, a space of profound safety and trust is created. Their defenses begin to melt away because they feel seen, heard, and valued without judgment. This single act of presence can dissolve more misunderstanding and prevent more conflict than any brilliantly crafted argument ever could. It is the ultimate less effort, more results strategy for human connection, fostering an intimacy that frantic talking can never achieve. The second great pillar of flowing relationships is the power of acceptance, which requires us to abandon one of the ego's favorite and most destructive pastimes, the fix-it project. So many of us enter into relationships with a hidden, and sometimes not so hidden, agenda to change the other person. We see their potential, and we appoint ourselves as the unpaid manager of their personal growth. We try to fix their habits, correct their opinions, and polish their personality to better match our own ideal. This is an act of supreme ego, and it is a guaranteed recipe for resistance. Every piece of unsolicited advice, every helpful criticism, sends a single, devastating message. You, as you are right now, are not good enough. This communication, no matter how well-intentioned, breeds nothing but resentment, defensiveness, and conflict. It is like trying to force a wild oak tree to grow in the neat, orderly shape of a potted plant. You will only damage the tree and exhaust yourself in the process. The flow-based approach requires us to fire ourselves from this impossible job. It asks us to practice radical acceptance, to grant others the sovereignty to be who they are, on their own journey, in their own time. This does not mean we must condone or tolerate harmful or abusive behavior. It simply means we release the futile and arrogant need to control another person's evolution. When you finally put down the heavy burden of the fix-it project, a tremendous amount of energy is liberated on both sides. The dynamic shifts from one of control and judgment to one of freedom and respect. And paradoxically, when you give someone the unconditional space to be exactly who they are, you create the very conditions of safety and love in which they are most likely to blossom and grow for themselves. With this foundation of presence and acceptance, the nature of communication itself begins to transform. A relationship can be seen as a kind of dance. In a dysfunctional, resistance-filled relationship, The dance is clumsy and painful. One person tries to rigidly lead, forcing their partner through a series of predetermined steps. They pull and they push, while the other person stumbles, resists, or feels utterly controlled. The conversation is a power struggle, an attempt to win, to prove a point, to be right. There is no harmony, only friction. Now, picture two master dancers in a state of flow. It is almost impossible to tell who is leading and who is following, because, in a sense, they are doing both, and neither. There is a seamless, fluid, and joyful give and take of energy. One partner initiates a movement, and the other responds instantly and intuitively, not just following, but adding their own unique expression, which in turn inspires the next movement from their partner. They are not thinking about the steps. They are in a state of deep listening, attuned to the music, and to the subtle energetic cues of their partner. This is the dance of connection. Communication from a state of flow mirrors this dance. It is not about winning an argument, but about maintaining the connection. When a difficult topic arises, you do not lead with the aggressive energy of blame and accusation, such as "you always do this." Instead, you offer your truth from a place of calm presence, owning your own experience. You say, "When this situation happens, I feel this emotion." This is a non-confrontational offering of your inner world, an invitation for your partner to understand, rather than a demand for them to defend themselves. You then listen to their response with the same open presence, creating a virtuous cycle, a feedback loop of authentic sharing and deep understanding. This is the dance of conscious, connected communication. Ultimately, the quality of our relationships is a direct reflection of our own energetic state. The law of resonance, which dictates that like attracts like, is as true for people as it is for tuning forks. When you are operating from a low-frequency state of neediness, drama, complaint, and judgment, you will consistently find yourself attracting and being attracted to people who resonate with and amplify that same chaotic energy. If your relationships are a constant source of friction, it is a sign that there is friction within you. Conversely, as you do the inner work to cultivate a high-frequency state of flow, a state characterized by self-acceptance, presence, purpose, and joy, you will inevitably begin to change the magnetic field around you. You will naturally become a vibrational match for other people who are also operating from a place of wholeness and harmony. The old, draining relationships may begin to fall away, not out of anger, but simply because they are no longer a resonant match for who you are becoming. This reveals the most empowering truth of all the work of creating beautiful, healthy, and supportive relationships is, and has always been, an inside job. By cultivating your own inner state of flow, you become the person you would want to be in a relationship with. And you effortlessly begin to attract others who can meet you in that magnificent and collaborative dance. We have now applied these powerful principles to our inner world, our creative work, and our connections with others. It is now time to turn our attention to one of the most highly charged, profoundly misunderstood, and resistance-filled areas of modern life. An area where the myths of hustle, scarcity, and struggle are most deeply entrenched. We must now explore the paradox of wealth and learn how to attract abundance by needing less. We arrive now at a subject that, for many, is the final frontier of resistance, an area of our lives more charged with fear, guilt, scarcity, and striving than any other. It is the topic of money, wealth, and abundance. Our culture has deeply ingrained in us the belief that financial success is the direct result of relentless hustle, of fierce competition, and of sacrificing our well-being in the pursuit of more. We have been taught that the path to wealth is paved with struggle and anxiety, but the principles of flow turn this entire paradigm on its head. The universe operates on a set of laws that are often paradoxical to the ego's way of thinking. And nowhere is this more true than in the realm of prosperity. The path to attracting true, sustainable wealth is not through the frantic energy of desperate wanting, but through the calm, centered power of needing less. The secret to creating a reality of outer abundance lies in the diligent cultivation of inner abundance first. To begin this transformation, we must first perform a deep cleansing of our relationship with money itself. For most of us, money is not a neutral tool. It is a canvas onto which we have projected all of our cultural conditioning and personal fears. We see it as the source of happiness, the root of all evil, a measure of our worth, a symbol of freedom, or a tool of corruption. It is none of these things. Money is simply a form of energy. It is a neutral, man-made medium of exchange, a tool designed to facilitate the flow of value and life force between people. It has no more inherent moral quality than a hammer or a stream of electricity. A hammer can be used to build a home or to break a window. Electricity can be used to light a hospital or to power an instrument of war. The tool is neutral. Its effect is determined entirely by the consciousness of the one who wields it. The same is true for money. It is an amplifier. It simply makes you more of what you already are. If you are a kind, generous, and loving person, wealth will amplify your ability to be kind, generous, and loving. If you are a fearful, insecure, and controlling person, wealth will amplify those qualities, giving you more things to be fearful about and more to control. We must strip away the layers of judgment and see money for what it is, a neutral current. When we stop making it the villain or the savior, we can finally begin to have a healthy, functional, and unemotional relationship with it, allowing it to flow into and through our lives without resistance. Once money is neutralized, we must examine the energy with which we approach it. The vast majority of people live in a constant, low-grade state of scarcity. Their inner monologue is a litany of lack. There's not enough to pay the bills. I can't afford that. Everything is so expensive. They check their bank account with a feeling of dread, and they feel a pang of anxiety with every purchase. This feeling state of scarcity is a powerful vibrational broadcast. It is a constant signal of not enough being sent out into the universal field. And the universe, which is a flawless mirror, can only reflect that signal of not enough back in the form of more bills, more unexpected expense, and more financial frustration. It is the energetic equivalent of the person chasing the butterfly with a net. Their desperate, needy energy repelling the very thing they seek. To attract wealth, you must change your broadcast. You must find a way to shift from the frequency of scarcity to the frequency of abundance. And abundance is not a number in a bank account. It is a state of being. It is the feeling of trust. It is the practice of gratitude for what you do have. Right now, it is the deep knowing that you are supported and provided for. You cannot create a wealthy reality from a feeling poor mindset. You must first cultivate the feeling of abundance within, and then watch as the mirror of the world reorganizes itself to match your new vibration. This shift naturally changes our approach to work itself, moving us from the paradigm of hard labor to the paradigm of inspired action. Sustainable wealth is rarely the result of simply working more hours or pushing harder. It is most often the result of an inspired idea, executed with joyful focus. In a state of flow, consider the story of Clara, a young entrepreneur. Clara is not driven by a desire to get rich. She is driven by a deep, passionate obsession with solving a problem she cares about. Let's say she wants to create a technology that helps elderly people feel less isolated. She spends her days not in a joyless grind, but in a state of creative immersion. She loses track of time as she codes, designs, and talks to potential users. She wakes up in the middle of the night with brilliant ideas for new features, because her subconscious is working on the problem even while she sleeps. Her actions are not fueled by the desperate need for a paycheck, but by the joyful, expansive energy of creation and service. She is not hustling. She is flowing, because she is so passionately engaged. The quality of her work is exceptional. The product she creates provides immense, genuine value to society. As a result, money begins to flow to her. It comes not because she chased it, but as the natural, inevitable, and effortless byproduct of the value she was joyfully putting out into the world. She focused on her passion, not her profit, and in doing so, the profit took care of itself. Her wealth was the effect, not the cause, of her alignment. This leads us to the final and most powerful paradox of wealth creation, the principle of non-attachment. This is the master key. It is the ability to hold a clear and powerful intention to create and receive abundance, while simultaneously releasing all desperate emotional attachment to the outcome. It is the cultivation of a state of being that says, I am passionately engaged in creating this venture, and I am open and willing to receive immense wealth from it. But if it were to all disappear tomorrow, I would still be whole. I would still be peaceful. My happiness and sense of self-worth are not dependent on this external result. This is not apathy. It is the ultimate expression of inner security and trust in the universe. It is the energy that dissolves scarcity at its root. When you are attached to an outcome, you are signaling to the universe that you are not whole without it, which is a vibration of lack. But when you release your attachment, you signal that you are already complete. And paradoxically, the very moment the universe senses that you do not need the money to be happy is the moment it can flow to you in the most magnificent and unrestricted ways. Your desperate attachment was the dam holding back the river of abundance. Releasing that attachment opens the floodgates. Our relationship with wealth, then, is truly a mirror of our relationship with ourselves. By neutralizing our judgments about money, by consciously shifting from a mindset of scarcity to one of gratitude, by choosing inspired action over joyless labor, and by courageously mastering the paradox of non-attachment, we become a vibrational match for true, lasting, and gracefully received abundance. As we learn to live more from this state of flow in our work, our relationships, and our finances, we begin to notice that our fundamental experience of one of life's most rigid structures starts to change. Our perception of time itself begins to become fluid, elastic, and malleable. We learn, to our astonishment, that we can, in fact, bend time, having explored our relationship with the outer world of work, creativity, people, and money. We now turn to an even more fundamental structure that governs our lives, our relationship with time itself. For most of us in the modern world, time is a tyrant. It is a finite resource that is constantly slipping away. The clock is a relentless taskmaster. It's ticking, a constant reminder of all the things we haven't done. We are perpetually running out of time, fighting the clock, saving time, and spending time. This language reveals a deep-seated belief system of scarcity, a belief that time is an enemy to be conquered or a commodity to be hoarded. This frantic relationship with time is one of the greatest sources of our stress and anxiety. But what if this entire framework is built on a misunderstanding? What if time is not the rigid, unchangeable container we perceive it to be? What if our experience of time is, in fact, fluid, elastic, and entirely subjective? The secret to a productive and peaceful life is not to manage time more effectively, but to step outside of its grasp altogether. In the state of flow, we do not race against the clock. We learn to bend time itself. The ancient Greeks had two distinct words for time, a nuance that our modern language has tragically lost. The first word was chronos. This is the time we are all intimately familiar with. Chronos is quantitative time, clock time, the linear and measurable succession of seconds, minutes, and hours. It is the time of schedules, deadlines, appointments, and spreadsheets. Our entire modern culture, with its obsession with productivity and efficiency, is built upon the foundation of chronos. We see our days as empty containers of hours and minutes that we must cram with as much activity as possible. This is the operating system of the hustle culture, and it inevitably leads to a feeling of being rushed, overwhelmed, and perpetually behind. The second Greek word for time was kairos. Kairos is not about quantity. It is about quality. It is qualitative time. It represents the opportune moment, the right time, the appointed and sacred instant when something special happens. Kairos is the moment of sudden inspiration, the unexpected window of opportunity, the perfect instant to have a crucial conversation. It is non-linear, unpredictable, and magical. Chronos is the time of the ego, which seeks to plan and control. Kairos is the time of the soul, which lives in presence and responds to the rhythm of the universe. You can spend an entire 8-hour day of Chronos time trapped in frustrating, unproductive work, or you can experience a single 5-minute Kairos moment, a flash of insight, a brilliant idea, a chance encounter that changes the entire course of your life. The goal is not to fill our Chronos, but to live a life rich in Kairos. This is where the state of flow reveals its power to alter reality. Flow is the gateway to Kairos. When you enter that state of total absorption in a task, something remarkable happens in your brain. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your mind responsible for higher order thinking, including self-awareness and the tracking of time, becomes significantly less active. This process, known as transient hypofrontality, means that your internal clock literally powers down. Without that nagging narrator constantly measuring the passing minutes, your perception of time becomes completely distorted. This is a hallmark experience of the flow state. It is the artist who becomes so engrossed in her painting that she completely misses a meal, looking up to find that 6 hours have passed in what felt like 30 minutes. It is the video game player so immersed in the challenge that an entire night disappears in a blink. It is the two lovers in conversation so deep and connected that the sun sets and rises without their notice. To enter a state of flow is to step out of the linear, marching progression of Chronos and into the deep, timeless, and sacred space of Kairos. In this state, time ceases to be your master and instead becomes a fluid and malleable element of your experience. Let us consider the parable of the modern world, the programmer and the bug. Alex, a brilliant software developer, is working on a critical piece of code for a new application. He hits a wall. There is a persistent bug in the system that he cannot solve. For 3 straight days, he operates in Chronos time. He sits at his desk for 10 hours a day, staring at the screen, drinking endless cups of coffee, and trying to force a solution. The more he pushes, the more frustrated he becomes, and the more elusive the answer seems. He is living the mantra of scarcity. I don't have enough time to solve this. The pressure mounts, his stress levels skyrocket, and his thinking becomes rigid and clouded. This frantic, the forced effort is deeply unproductive. At the end of the 3rd day, utterly exhausted and defeated, he finally surrenders. Hey, let go. He goes for a long walk in the park, not thinking about the problem at all. He eats a good meal and gets a full night of sleep. The next morning, he returns to his desk, not with the frantic energy of the day before, but with a sense of calm, renewed focus. As he begins to look at the code, he enters a state of flow. The noise of the world fades away. The screen becomes his entire universe. His fingers move effortlessly across the keyboard. And then, in a flash of insight, a Kairos moment, he sees it. The bug, a simple syntax error he had scanned past 100 times, reveals itself with perfect clarity. He fixes it in seconds, And then, staying in that same state of hyperproductive flow, he proceeds to write the next 3 modules of the program with an elegance and efficiency that would have been unthinkable the day before. He finally looks up at the clock, expecting it to be late afternoon. It is not even lunchtime. He has accomplished more in 1 hour of inspired Kairos time than he did in 3 agonizing days of Chronos toil. His story proves a vital truth: the belief that you don't have enough time is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It creates a stressed, contracted state that repels flow and makes you inefficient, thus proving your belief true. When you trust that you have all the time you need for what is truly important, you relax, which allows you to enter flow, which makes you extraordinarily effective, thus creating an abundance of time. There is one modern habit that is the absolute enemy of Kairos and a guaranteed way to remain trapped in the stressful prison of Chronos. It is the myth of multitasking. Our brains are not designed to focus on multiple complex tasks simultaneously. When we believe we are multitasking, what we are actually doing is called task switching, rapidly toggling our attention back and forth between different things. Every time we switch, we incur a cognitive cost. It takes time and mental energy for our brain to disengage from one task and re-engage with another. This process drains our energy, dramatically increases the likelihood of making errors, and, ironically, makes every task take significantly longer than if we had done them sequentially. More importantly, it makes entering a state of flow impossible. Flow requires deep, sustained, and uninterrupted concentration on a single point of focus. Single tasking is the doorway to the deep, productive, and timeless realm of Kairos. Multitasking is the turnstile that keeps you stuck in the shallow, frantic, and time-starved world of Chronos. By shifting our focus from the quantity of our minutes to the quality of our moments, by understanding that flow is our passport to the opportune realm of Kairos, and by committing to the disciplined practice of single tasking, we can fundamentally transform our relationship with time. We escape the tyranny of the ticking clock and learn to accomplish far more with far less stress, not by managing our schedule, but by transcending it. This ability to live in the grace of Kairos, to enter states of deep flow, and to operate at our peak potential is not just a matter of mental and spiritual discipline. It is profoundly dependent on the health and vitality of the very vehicle through which we experience our entire reality. We must now turn our attention to the crucial link between our physical well-being and our capacity for flow. We must learn to treat the body as a sacred antenna. Throughout our journey, we have explored the vast inner landscapes of the mind and the spirit. We have learned to bend time, to speak the language of the universe, and to harness the power of our focus and intention. But this entire magnificent experience of life, every thought, every feeling, every state of consciousness, is mediated through a single, sacred vessel, our physical body, in our noble quest for mental clarity and spiritual growth. It is all too easy to neglect our physical form, to see it as a mere vehicle, a meat suit that carries our brain from one place to another, or worse, as an inconvenient obstacle to our enlightenment. This is a critical and fundamental error. Your body is not separate from your consciousness. It is an inseparable aspect of it. It is a highly sensitive, finely tuned energetic instrument. It is the antenna through which you broadcast and receive frequency. And the quality of this physical vessel directly and profoundly determines your ability to access and sustain higher states of being, including the state of flow. To truly grasp this, we must see the body as an energy system. While we have established that our thoughts and emotions generate our primary vibrational signal, the body is the resonating chamber and amplifier for that signal. A body that is vibrant, healthy, and full of energy is like a perfectly crafted acoustic guitar, capable of amplifying the beautiful music of high-frequency emotions like joy, peace, and love, making them richer and more powerful. A body that is sick, tired, and sluggish is like a damaged instrument with frayed strings. It struggles to hold a clear note. It can deaden the vibration of positive emotions and can, through its own discomfort and stress, generate low-frequency signals that drag your entire state of being down. The conductor of this bodily orchestra is your nervous system, the intricate electrical wiring that runs your entire being. When you are chronically stressed, sleep-deprived, and poorly nourished, your nervous system becomes locked in a state of fight or flight. This sympathetic nervous system dominance is a low vibration, high resistance state, characterized by tension, anxiety, and clouded thinking. It is the biological opposite of flow. By consciously caring for your body, you encourage a shift into the rest and digest or parasympathetic state. This is a calm, coherent, and high vibration biological environment. It is the necessary fertile ground from which states of flow can spontaneously arise. Tending to your physical well-being is not an act of vanity. It is an essential act of energetic maintenance. The most direct way we influence this energy system is through the fuel we provide it. The old adage, "You are what you eat," is a profound vibrational truth. The food you consume is not just a collection of calories. It is energetic information that directly impacts the quality of your consciousness for hours after you eat. Think of foods as having a vibrational signature. On one end, you have low vibrational foods, highly processed products, refined sugars, artificial chemicals, and heavy, starchy meals. How do these foods make you feel? They create a state of sluggishness, brain fog, and fatigue. They trigger inflammation and place immense stress on your digestive system, forcing your body to divert huge amounts of energy to simply process them. This physical stress creates energetic static, making the clear focus required for flow nearly impossible to achieve. On the other end of the spectrum, you have high vibrational foods, clean, whole, and alive with life force energy. Fresh, organic fruits and vegetables, clean sources of protein, healthy fats, and pure water. How do these foods make you feel? They make you feel light, clear, vibrant, and energized. They provide the clean-burning fuel and the essential micronutrients that your brain and body require to operate at their absolute peak. Every meal is a choice. You are choosing your level of consciousness for the next several hours. You are choosing the clarity of your antenna. To choose clean, vibrant food is to choose a body that is a ready and willing conduit for flow. This concept is perfectly captured in the metaphor of the Formula One race car. Imagine that you are a world champion driver. Your focus is legendary. Your skill is unmatched. Your courage is absolute. This represents your conscious mind, your spirit, your powerful intention. Now, for the most important race of your life, you are placed in a multi-million-dollar race car. This car is your body. But this particular car has been woefully neglected. Its fuel tank has been filled with cheap, dirty gasoline instead of high-octane racing fuel. This is your poor nutrition. Its tires are bald, worn, and improperly inflated. This is your lack of healthy movement. Its engine has not been serviced. Its oil has not been changed. And its complex electrical systems are glitching. This is your sleep deprivation. Now, the race begins. No matter how brilliant a driver you are, no matter how much willpower you exert, you are doomed to fail. You will be sluggish on the straightaways. You will be clumsy and unresponsive in the corners. And inevitably, the car will sputter, break down, and grind to a halt on the side of the track. Your ultimate potential as a driver is completely and utterly limited by the state of your vehicle. The hustle culture we have worked to dismantle treats sleep as a weakness, a waste of precious time that could be used for more work. This is the logic of a race car driver who believes they are too busy to make a pit stop. It is a form of insanity. Sleep is not a passive state of shutdown. It is an active, essential period of critical repair and reprogramming. While you sleep, your body heals damaged tissues, your immune system strengthens, and your brain performs a vital cleansing process, flushing out metabolic waste products that accumulate during the day. This is also the time when your subconscious mind is most active, consolidating the memories and lessons of the day, and installing the new beliefs and programs you are working to cultivate. To deprive yourself of adequate, high-quality sleep is to actively sabotage your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. It is the fastest and most effective way to degrade the sensitivity of your antenna and to sever your connection to the state of flow. Finally, we must consider the wisdom of conscious movement. This is not about punishing high-intensity workouts born from a desire to fight your body. It is about moving your body in a way that cultivates presence, releases stored tension, and calms the nervous system. Ancient practices like yoga and Tai Chi are, in essence, forms of moving meditation. They are explicitly designed to create a state of flow by perfectly blending physical challenge with mental focus, uniting the mind, body, and breath into a single, harmonious whole. But the practice can be as simple as taking a walk in nature, leaving your devices behind and simply walking, paying attention to the feeling of your feet on the earth, the sight of the trees, and the sound of the birds is one of an incredibly powerful way to quiet the mind and regulate the nervous system. This kind of conscious movement releases the stagnant energy that builds up from stress and sitting. It improves blood flow and oxygenation to the brain, and it directly counteracts the physical effects of living in a fight or flight state. It makes your body a more peaceful, more coherent, and more receptive vessel for the high-frequency states we seek. Our body, then, is not a machine to be driven into the ground, but a sacred and sensitive instrument that is inextricably linked to the quality of our consciousness. By honoring it with the clean fuel of proper nutrition, the essential maintenance of deep rest, and the gentle tuning of conscious movement, we calibrate our physical antenna. We make it capable of clearly receiving and powerfully sustaining the high frequencies of intuition, creativity, and flow. A healthy body is not merely a pleasant luxury. It is the very foundation for an enlightened and effective life. Through this entire journey, we have explored the mind, the spirit, and now, the body. We have learned to dismantle resistance, set intentions, let go, listen to our intuition, and care for our physical vessel. As these practices begin to coalesce and integrate, a profound shift occurs. We stop seeking flow as an external state to be captured, and we begin to embody it as our natural way of being. Our journey together has been a comprehensive exploration of the tools and mindsets required to live a life of less effort and more results. We have learned to dismantle the architecture of resistance, to set our course with clear intention, to surrender the outcome with trust, to listen to the quiet guidance of our intuition, and to honor the physical vessel that carries us through this life. We have accumulated a powerful toolkit for doing the work. But the final and most profound stage of this evolution is not about doing anything at all. It is the graceful, liberating shift from doing flow to being flow. It is the point where the scaffolding you have so carefully constructed can be dismantled. Because the building itself is now complete and structurally sound. The goal was never to become a master of techniques, but to use the techniques to uncover the mastery that has been dormant within you all along. This is the ultimate graduation, the transition from seeking a state to embodying it as your very nature. In the beginning of this practice, our efforts feel conscious, sometimes clumsy, and often require a great deal of deliberate focus. We have to remember to be present when our mind wanders. We have to make a conscious effort to reframe a negative thought or to feel gratitude when we are feeling low. It feels like we are actively doing something to achieve a desired state. But as we persist, a beautiful and subtle transformation occurs. These conscious practices begin to recede into the background, They become less like chores and more like innate habits. Presence becomes more familiar and comfortable than distraction. Gratitude becomes a more natural default response than complaint. The mental muscles we have trained become so strong that they operate automatically, without our conscious command. It is in this stage that we realize a fundamental truth. Flow is not a switch that you learn to flip on. It is not a destination that you finally arrive at. Flow is the natural state of a system from which friction has been removed. You do not create flow. You allow flow by ceasing to do all of the things that block it. The path to flow disappears, not because you have finished the journey, but because you realize you were standing at the destination all along, just covered in the mud of your own resistance. The work was never about adding something to yourself. It was always about clearing away what was obscuring your true nature. This shift is accompanied by a subtle but powerful change in our sense of identity. For much of our spiritual or self-development journey, we tend to identify as a seeker. We tell ourselves, I am a person who is trying to be more mindful. I am working on myself. I am practicing how to be more positive. While these labels can be useful in the initial stages, they carry a hidden vibration of separation. The very act of trying or seeking implies that the desired state is somewhere else, that you are here and it is over there, and that there is a gap that must be bridged by your effort. The embodiment of flow occurs when these labels simply fall away because they are no longer true. You no longer try to meditate. You simply enjoy the experience of silence. You no longer practice gratitude. You simply live as a grateful person. You no longer try to let go. Your default state is one of trust. The identity of the seeker dissolves because the search is over. You have not found something new. You have simply returned home to who you have always been. It is a quiet, internal relaxation into your authentic self. A final surrender of the struggle to become something more, in favor of the peace of simply being who you are. This entire journey is perfectly captured in the timeless parable of the great sculptor. A magnificent, lifelike statue of an elephant, carved from a single, colossal block of marble, is unveiled to an admiring crowd. The detail is breathtaking. The form so perfect it seems to breathe with life. A young apprentice, his mind full of questions about technique and process, approaches the master sculptor in awe. Master, he asks, how did you create such a flawless masterpiece from that formless block of stone? How did you know exactly where to cut, what to add, how to shape it to bring forth such beauty? The master looks at the student, a gentle smile on his face, and replies with a simple, profound secret. I did not create the elephant. He says, the elephant was already waiting inside the marble. My job was simply to chip away everything that was not the elephant. This story holds the key to our own transformation. We are the marble block, and inside every one of us, there already exists a perfect, the finished masterpiece, a self that is already whole, peaceful, creative, and living in a state of flow. But over the course of our lives, this masterpiece has been covered, obscured by thick, heavy layers of non-elephant stone. These are our limiting beliefs, our fears, ou past traumas, our inherited conditioning, and the endless demands of our ego. The entire spiritual journey, all the techniques and practices we have explored, are not acts of building a new self. They are the sculptor's chisels. They are the tools we use to methodically chip away at the stone that is not us. Each time you release a limiting belief, you chip away a piece of stone. Each time you choose presence over distraction, you polish a rough edge. Each time you let go of the need to control, you reveal a part of the hidden form. This leads us to the most liberating realization of all. Peace and flow are not states you must achieve or acquire. They are your factory settings. They are your default state. They are what remains when you have courageously removed all the layers of conditioned resistance that you have accumulated in your lifetime. Peace is not something you find. It is what you are when you finally stop creating noise. From this state of authentic being, Action itself is transformed. It no longer arises from a stressful to-do list, a sense of obligation, or a feeling of should. Action begins to emerge organically, joyfully, and effortlessly from the wellspring of your being. It is a natural expression of the masterpiece that has been revealed. The sculptor does not have to force himself to make the final polishing strokes on his revealed creation. It is a joyful, loving act. In the same way, you will find yourself moved to create, to connect, to serve, not from a sense of duty, but from a state of inspired play. This is true effortless action. The journey from doing to being is a journey of subtraction, not addition. It is the sacred process of chipping away all that is not you to reveal the magnificent masterpiece that has been waiting within you all along. When the seeking finally ceases, we discover that flow is not a peak state to be visited on rare occasions, but our home, our natural and rightful way of existing in the world. Action becomes art, and life itself becomes a masterpiece. This realization brings our journey of exploration to its culmination. We have traveled from the noisy prison of hustle and resistance to the quiet freedom of embodied flow. We have dismantled the old paradigm and assembled a new one. All that remains is to integrate this understanding into a cohesive whole, to summarize the principles of the effortless life, and to carry its profound wisdom forward into every precious moment that is to come. We have arrived at the culmination of our journey together, the point where all the streams of thought converge into a single mighty river. We have traveled from the barren lands of hustle and resistance, through the inner worlds of thought and emotion, and into the sublime state of embodied flow. We began with a simple, paradoxical promise: less effort, more results. A statement that, to the conditioned mind, sounds like a fantasy. But now, having journeyed through the principles of creation, we can look upon this paradox not as a riddle, but as a profound and literal truth. It is time to integrate these lessons, to weave the individual threads into the magnificent tapestry of an effortless life. Let us now look back at the path we have traveled, so we may see the entire landscape in a single, cohesive view. Our journey began with an act of demolition. We took a sledgehammer to the flawed foundations of our modern work ethic, dismantling the great deception of hustle and recognizing it as a recipe for burnout, not breakthrough. We then turned our gaze inward and identified the true enemy. Not our circumstances, but the internal, invisible force of resistance. With the problem diagnosed, we began to explore the solution. Shifting our perspective from the psychological to the physical, we embraced the quantum truth that everything is energy, and that we do not attract what we want, but what we are. We learned that our feeling state is a vibrational broadcast, and that to change our lives, we must first change our frequency. This led us to the acquisition of our toolkit for conscious creation. We learned to wield the power of a clear intention, to aim our energy like a Zen archer who focuses on their inner form, not the outer target. We then practiced the courageous art of letting go, understanding that to catch the butterfly of our desire, we must become still and stop chasing it. We learned to quiet the noise of the ego and tune into the whisper of our intuition, our infallible inner compass. We discovered the supreme importance of the present moment, realizing it is the only place where life exists and the only portal to peace. From this place of presence, we learned to read the winks and nods of the universe through the magical language of synchronicity. We then faced the heart of our suffering, learning to see the obstacle as the way, transforming our irritants into pearls of wisdom. We unlocked the ultimate state changer in the alchemy of gratitude, and we ventured into the engine room of our consciousness to begin the crucial work of reprogramming the subconscious mind. We rewrote our toxic relationship with failure, seeing it not as defeat, but as essential data. We learned to honor our body as a sacred antenna, tuning it with proper fuel, rest, and movement. Finally, we saw how all these practices lead to the ultimate shift, The move from doing flow to simply being flow. Realizing we are not the sculptor, but the masterpiece that was always waiting to be revealed. With this entire journey in view, we can now fully appreciate the true meaning of less effort, more results. Less effort does not mean no effort. It is not a call to laziness, apathy, or inaction. It is a call to the end of wasted effort. It means no more effort spent fighting against the current of your own life. No more energy spent wrestling with your inner resistance. No more precious life force poured into the bottomless pits of worry about the future and regret about the past. No more striving to control the uncontrollable. The effort that remains is of a completely different quality. It is aligned action. It is inspired action. It is the joyful and focused effort that arises spontaneously from a state of flow. It is the effort of the dancer lost in the music, the artist lost in the canvas, the entrepreneur lost in the thrill of creation. It is effort that feels not like work, but like play. And what of more results? This, too, must be redefined. It does not simply mean more money in the bank or more achievements on a resume. Though those things may certainly come, the true results are an expansion of your entire quality of life. It means more peace, through the profound reduction of inner conflict and anxiety. It means more joy, found not just in the destination, but in the exquisite beauty of the present moment journey. It means more creativity. As you become a clear channel for inspired ideas and elegant solutions, it means more connection. As your relationships become deeper, more authentic, and less defined by drama, and perhaps most magically, it means more time. As you escape the tyranny of the clock and enter the spacious, opportune world of Kairos, the ultimate result is not a life that merely looks good on the outside, but one that feels good from the inside. Let us return, one last time, to the metaphor of the river. Our journey mirrors the three great stages of a person's relationship with this river of life. In the first stage, we are like someone who has been dropped into its powerful current, believing our true home is back where we started. We begin to desperately swim upstream. This is the life of hustle, of struggle, of resistance. We fight the very current that is trying to carry us toward our destiny. We expend all of our energy, make almost no progress, and live in a state of constant, exhausting toil. In the second stage, through wisdom and practice, we learn to surrender. We realize the futility of fighting the river. We stop struggling, turn onto our backs, and we learn to float. We let the current carry us. This is the life of letting go, of trust, of allowance. It is a vast improvement, a life of relative peace and ease, guided by the flow of the river. But there is a third and final awakening. After floating for a time, we begin to notice something miraculous. We look at our hands and see they are not made of flesh, but of water. We look at the riverbank, and we realize it is not the river that is moving, but the banks that are flowing past us. We realize, with a sudden, breathtaking clarity, that we are not a separate person in the river. We are the river. Our personal will and the will of the universe have become one and the same. There is no separation. Action is no longer a choice between struggling or surrendering. It is simply the natural, effortless expression of the current itself. This is the state of embodied flow. This is not a final destination at which you arrive and then are declared finished. The effortless life is not a static state of perfection. It is a continuous, moment-to-moment dance of awareness. Life, in its infinite creativity. I will continue to present you with new situations, new challenges, and new opportunities to fall out of alignment, to forget your true nature. You will have moments of resistance. You will have days where you feel yourself swimming upstream again. The practice is not about never falling out of the river. It is about becoming so familiar with the feeling of flow that you recognize, more and more quickly, the moment you have left it. It is about learning to gently, lovingly, and without judgment, guide yourself back to center, back to the current, again and again. It is a practice for a lifetime, a dance that becomes more graceful with each passing step. We have now come full circle. Having explored the depths of this great paradox, we have seen that the effortless life is not a myth, but a reality available to each of us when we choose to live in harmony with the laws of our own being and the universe itself. It is a life defined not by struggle, but by grace, not by force, but by flow. Our exploration is complete, but your journey of living it has just begun. And so, our journey together concludes. We began in a world defined by friction and force. A world that taught us that success was a battle to be won and that life was a problem to be solved. We felt the profound exhaustion of swimming against a relentless current, of pushing a boulder that would not budge. From that place of struggle, we traveled inward. We journeyed deep into the mechanics of our own consciousness, discovering that the enemy we were fighting was never external, but was the shadow of our own resistance. We learned to trade the brute force of the ego for the quiet power of the soul. We learned to set intentions like arrows, to let go of the outcome with trust, to hear the subtle guidance of our intuition, and to find the sacred in the mundane by anchoring ourselves in the present moment. We have seen that this wisdom, this entire library of universal truth, is always available, a constant and loving soundtrack to our lives that we can access at any time, simply by choosing to listen. If there is one ultimate message to carry forward from our time together, let it be this: the universe is not withholding from you. It is not a stingy gatekeeper who must be pleased, nor a stubborn adversary who must be conquered. It is a vast and flawless mirror, whose only function is to reflect back to you the truth of your own energy. Abundance, creativity, peace, and love are not scarce commodities that must be earned through suffering. They are the very fabric of existence, the boundless ocean in which you are already swimming. They are your birthright. The great paradox of less effort, more results is finally resolved in this simple understanding. The most exhausting and difficult effort any human being can possibly expend is the effort of resisting their own true nature. The struggle was never against the world. It was always a struggle against the self. The moment you cease this inner war, the moment you surrender to the current of your own being, you do not become weak or passive. You become aligned. And in that alignment, you access a power that is infinitely more effective, more intelligent, and more graceful than any force your ego could ever hope to command. The power to live this life of flow does not reside in these words, or in any book or teacher. It resides, and has always resided, within you. It is not a distant goal to be achieved. It is a presence to be acknowledged, right here, right now. It is in your very next conscious breath. It is in the choice to release one small worry that you have been clutching too tightly. It is in the decision to feel a moment of genuine gratitude for the simple fact of your own existence. This is where the work and the play truly begins. The journey of learning is over. The adventure of living has just begun. The door to a life defined by grace has been standing open all along, waiting patiently for you to turn the knob and walk through.